Chapter 1490 Alarm. Chapter 1490 Alarm _ In a corner of the ancient God Star area, above a scorching sun, halos swelled and exploded. The ground was red like hot iron as a shadow halted there. The true flame of the sun couldn't threaten him. He seemed to blend well with the heat and the extreme light. He was Brian, the God Lord. He looked a little tired. When he saw the four lights in different colors chasing after him, he felt cold. He could never believe that his former subordinates had reached the third sky of a mortal realm with Huey's support. They all had the real power of the soul, and their realm wasn't much different from his. More importantly, this group of four understood the arts of cooperation. When they joined hands, their powers were doubled. Brian had reached the peak of a mortal realm. He understood the dark energy and had created his territory. He shouldn't waste a lot of energy. Otherwise, it would take forever to break through to the territory ancestor realm. Also, he wasn't sure that he could overwhelm the four great heavenly kings. He was afraid that the heavenly kings would hold him back and Tianxia would drain him to death. That was why he kept running. He ran to this blazing sun because he felt something dear here. He didn't know why, but it somehow eased his restless mind. Brian, don't blame us for pursuing you. We've been with you for many years. We know how strong you are. Easygoing smiled faintly while calmly walking toward him. You're the Mara in our minds. If you don't die, we can't advance anymore. Only killing you will help us reach the territory ancestor realm. Your existence will affect Goddess Mother too. We have to kill you. The three heavenly kings, Divine Marshal, Light, and Carefree, also landed on this burning sun. Looking at Brian, their faces were heavy. It doesn't matter that you've betrayed me. You shouldn't betray your ancestors and this world of yours. Brian let out a low-pitched shout. Ancestors? Our world? Carefree burst out laughing. We have never met any one of them before. Who did you mention? Desolate? Haha, what's the difference? Under Desolate's rule, we were still servants. Otherwise, we wouldn't have destroyed Bloodthirsty that year. And now, Goddess Mother has erased the slave mark Desolate had carved in our souls. She let us follow her and taught us the magic of the soul energy. It's much better than what Desolate had offered, right? Then, why do we have to go with Desolate? It chose you that year, not us. But after it chose you, it didn't give you the power of the dark energy. The God Lord looked at them coldly. He didn't talk more as he knew they wanted to walk the same path as we. He was just one step away from the territory ancestor realm. He didn't want to waste energy, so he decided to leave. However, right at this moment, a crack appeared in the flaming layer of the sun, and Ghost Hunter abruptly stormed out. After swallowing Pu Tai in the ancient Demon Star area, Ghost Hunter had disappeared mysteriously, and now he was here. As soon as he came, he immediately barged into the four heavenly kings. His roaring and howling seemed to break the entire sky like thousands of thunderbolts booming at the same time. His roar had something vague but marvelous, like a hot flame, wild thunderbolts, and the sharpness of metal. The four heavenly kings were shaken and dizzy. They found their soul altars trembling and their souls aghast. All of them were extremely frightened and petrified as Ghost Hunter emerged all of a sudden. That's Ghost Hunter, the beast that had eaten Song Yin. He's the heir of the heavenly monster tribe, chosen by Azure Dragon. It has almost 100 years since he had disappeared. Easygoing screamed in fear. Being dazed for seconds, he provided the information as he was in charge of collecting intelligence in the ancient God Star area. Crack! Crack! Ghost Hunter's stinky giant mouth was chewing Pu Tai's body. Wisps of Bloodthirsty's pure energy slowly entered its fearsome, bestial body. Brian looked at Ghost Hunter, his face changing as he screamed ear-piercingly, You are. Ghost Hunter coldly regarded him. Brian didn't finish his sentence, so the heavenly kings didn't know who Ghost Hunter really was. They were already petrified because of his aura. This kind of surging life energy had frightened them badly. Oh, you. Another roar echoed, which had actually shaken the entire place. Then the flames of the suns gathered, covering the 4 heavenly kings. The 4 heavenly kings felt fearful, as if they were facing their nemesis. They wanted to urge their power Upanishads, but none of their abilities worked. They discolored in fright, exchanging a brief look. Then they didn't dare to linger and hastily flew away. Ghost Hunter just roared, but didn't pursue the others. After shooing the 4 heavenly kings away, he didn't mind God Lord leaving shortly. After a flash, he disappeared. Brian looked extremely stunned. After Ghost Hunter had left, he was still murmuring to himself, "It's really familiar to me. Who is it? It's him or him." Ancient God Continent. Zi Yao was sitting neatly on the crystal, the tiara throne implanted on the massive snake head. Her bright eyes looked as if she had confined so many stars in them. She suddenly got something, so she sent her soul messages to call her servants. Not long afterward, Tian Xia brought the experts under his command and gathered by Zi Yao. They kneeled down respectfully, their faces suspicious. They didn't know why Zi Yao had summoned them. They knew something big had happened, which stirred them up. Shi Yan's back from the sea domain of Nihility. He's in the ancient demon star area, attacking Devour. Devour's not in a good situation. Zi Yao's smart eyes showed her intelligence. Shi Yan's really bold. He has connected to the territory ancestor realm experts of the sea domain of Nihility. He's not afraid of shattering this desolate territory. Goddess Mother, you mean someone from outer space? Tian Xia was frightened. Not just one, those aliens are the peak existences of this era. It's troublesome to deal with them. Devour had received more severe wounds than I did. I'm afraid he can't endure, Xiao said calmly. So, the existence like you can't resist the peerless experts of this era? Tia Xia changed his visage. Devour, and I haven't recovered fully. We got damaged badly in the previous era, so we can't recover quickly. Only if we can eat up Desolate can we fully recover. It's the reason why Devour and I are hurried to swallow the ancient demon continent and the ancient god continent. If they finish Devour, they will come to the ancient god star area to find us. Zi Yao said indifferently, then gave an order. Open the space passage. We're going to the ancient demon star area to find Devour. I have an agreement with him. Let's go. Above the god zenith, a light bridge was conjured which could unlimitedly carry people and things across space. Zi Yao, Tian Xia, and their subordinates walked on that bridge. Their figures faded as they disappeared one by one. Chapter 1491. Are you her? Chapter 1491. Are you her? _. Inside the rolling darkness, a shadow came and roared furiously. Roars and howls reverberated like the bell of death, pounding on everybody's soul. The souls of the ordinary people living on the surrounding star areas exploded instantly as if they were struck by lightning. It was the enraged roar Edgar had sounded as he had to bear the agony of his son's death. His roar had shattered souls and blasted soul altars. Hero and Montesi had confined Devour, but they didn't expect that Devour in this situation could bring Edgar here to destroy their plan. As soon as Edgar appeared, his thundering bellow had smashed Montesi's time seal to rescue Devour. Hero hadn't reacted when Edgar shouted at Lebit, asking why Putai was dead. Boom! 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 The bell of death echoed unceasingly in Gay, Meiji and Emperor Sea Shark's heads. They changed their countenances while attacking Lebit. The stream of their energy was interrupted, and they couldn't maintain their attacks anymore. Lebit seized a chance and turned into a jet of black light, returning to the dark abyss. From a distance, he pointed at Shi Yan while talking. Edgar, brother. Shi Yan killed Putai. He's the heir Bloodthirsty had chosen. He killed Putai and got all of his power Upanishads. He wants to kill our ancestor too. Edgar had a dark green skin, his face twitching. He pulled the void, and the blood of the dead creatures on those planets was drawn instantly. A blood pond congregated in front of Edgar, the dazzling red hue looking like some bizarre but magnificent gemstone. Edgar panted, like an enraged beast, while pointing his finger at Shiryen. The blood pond generated a hoarse scream, then turned into a massive, gory serpent with the power of death and destruction. It crawled as the mysterious patterns on its body gathered the negative emotions, including fear, wild, and brutality in this world. Aha! Xian He, Frederick, and Ming Hao clutched their chest, while groaning, their faces ashen. As the serpent gazed at them, they were immediately flooded with thick negative energy. Shortly, they felt their souls occupied. It was similar to the time their master Bloodthirsty had taught them lessons. Edgar, the expert that had suddenly appeared, had the death, destruction, and chaos power Upanishads that were even stronger than Bloodthirsty. Strictly speaking, Edgar was the high-level creature Devour had created directly. If Desolate had exerted a lot of efforts to create Bloodthirsty, Devour had used his blood as the foundation to give life to Edgar, imparting him the power Upanishads and making him the chief of the Devouring clan. Edgar wasn't the first generation of the Devouring clan, but he was the one who had boosted the Devouring clan to the equal position with the other 6 big clans. As he had reached the territory ancestor realm without the devouring power Upanishad, it was enough to show how fierce he was. In the sea domain of nihility, Edgar was known as the god of death, the appearance of evil in this world. Wherever he passed, the life stars were destroyed and lives were reaped. He didn't even leave a single tuft of grass. He was death as he absorbed the energy of all living things. He had fused the death, destruction, and chaos together, cultivating them to the profound level. In the sea domain of nihility, Edgar was a fearsome character. Even Montesi and Hero, his peers, didn't want to provoke this man because Edgar was a real mad dog. When he got his nerves stimulated, he didn't have a bit of consciousness left in him. It was the side effect of the rampage power Upanishad. The bloody, massive serpent carried the 3 power Upanishads. It opened the red blood mouth on the several thousand meters long body that looked like a massive tree trunk. While moving, the serpent continually released the power of brutality, evil, and destruction. Xian He, Frederick, and Ming Hao were baffled for seconds. Then they had to retreat. They couldn't endure it. De Carlos and the others also recognized that they couldn't stand such negative attacks. They had to retreat, not standing next to Shiryen anymore. After seconds, only one person stood by Shiryen. It was Audrey, although she was only at the first sky of a mortal realm. She looked at the serpent, her eyes cold and clear while shooting a cold light. The soul refining cauldron arose from the crown of her head. The cauldron turned as big as the sky, shielding her. Billions of absolute beginning symbols wiggled on the cauldron. Those symbols were like ghosts swimming in a river, emitting a cold vibe. Sure, Yen looked surprised as he lifted his head to see the absolute beginning symbols moving around the soul refining cauldron. They were the soul and spirit symbols, which created the magical and mysterious formations. Go! Billions of absolute beginning symbols created by the brutal soul, ghosts, and departed souls had become one like the young birds returning to the nest and attacked the giant serpent. Boom! Boom! Pieces of souls shattered in the rumbling, earth-shaking explosions. The brutal souls turned into gray smoke. However, the serpent's head was smashed flat and the meandering patterns on its skin dimmed. Soul refining cauldron. It's Neptune's soul refining cauldron. Edgar screamed furiously. The soul refining cauldron, so what? Neptune didn't dare to fight me even if he had the cauldron. You're just a small warrior at the first sky of a mortal realm. You think you can use the soul refining cauldron to resist me? Ridiculous. Right, I'm not his opponent. Audrey muttered. Sure, Yen turned to her, seeing 2 trickles of blood running down the corners of her mouth. The blood trickles ran like snakes on her snow-white neck, which was somehow horrible to see. Audrey's eyes dimmed. This attack had hurt her badly. She couldn't fight anymore. Rest well, don't force yourself. Sure, Yen comforted her. He rose one hand, sending an ivory-white seal, which then turned into an ancient life symbol, to Audrey's body. It was his vitality to recover her wounds. Stars break. He turned back to Edgar while grinning. Right next to the serpent, a barren planet responded to him. Its nucleus cracked, blasting frantically. The massive serpent was covered in the energy of the star's explosion. It was shattered instantly into pieces in front of everyone, beams of energy shooting everywhere. Edgar shook, his crazy face fearful. You fused with desolates will to become the temporary master of this territory. That's how you can control the stars here. Stars move. Sure, Yen slightly closed his eyes, focusing on urging the star power Upanishad and using the soul to control the world and the stars within this territory. Many planets with living creatures quickly left this place, while the barren planets, without lives, came one after another. Dozens of stars aligned behind him like a massive, shining lantern. Then he began to speak. If it were another arena and not this desolate territory, I would have no chance of surviving in a fight with you. Edgar's eyes became lucid as he tried to press his flame of anger due to Pu Tai's death. He had to solve this seriously. But we're in desolate territory. This is my territory. I can move the stars and control the natural powers. I can even change the principle in a short time. Sure, Yen wore a cold and calm face while talking. It's not easy to kill me here. You can try. Let's see whether you can break the principle in another's territory or not at the second sky of territory ancestor realm. You little devil, since when have you mastered a lying skill like that? A charming voice came from a light which was just as big as a fingernail. However, afterward, it swelled rapidly until it was the size of a room. A magnificent 7-colored crystal lotus throne arose. Zi Yao wore an amethyst long dress, sitting on the lotus throne, her eyes radiant with bright light. Tianxia, the chiefs of many clans, the elders of the God Clan's Elder Committee, Lena of the Heavenly River Temple, and Gu Lian of the Thousand Fantasy Sect, along with many experts, emerged behind her. There was one warrior whose appearance surprised Shi Yen the most. It was Cecilia. Cecilia had accompanied him while they were on Desolate. They used to have some romantic moments too. She stood by her teacher Lena, her face upset. She looked both sorrowful and reluctant. Cecilia also had a small, dark green snake on her forehead, Zi Yao's crest. All the warriors under Zi Yao's commands had this mark. It was the proof of sending her the soul seal and becoming her slaves. All of them had submitted to Zi Yao. Their lives and souls were tied to Zi Yao. Once she was dead, they wouldn't survive either. Zi Yao brought her subordinates from the ancient God-Star area here. As soon as she emerged, Hero and Montesi looked shocked. They exchanged looks and stopped confining Devour, returning to Shi Yan's side. The energy on her body is stronger than Devour. If I'm not wrong, she must be the other absolute beginning creature you've mentioned, right? Montesi said, her eyes stern. Shi Yan sighed inwardly, giving her a slight nod. Hero, Montesi, Gay, Meiji, and Emperor Sea Shark returned to Shi Yan's sides, separating them from Edgar in the Dark Abyss and Zi Yao's team. The air of this area suddenly became quite strange. You, after all, are you her? Shi Yan turned to Zi Yao. After a while, he suddenly shouted. Zi Yao smiled, her glamour being no less than Meiji. Perhaps she could defeat the other when talking about charming demeanor. Her bright eyes had ripples of light. I'm sure she's me. And I can be her, but I perhaps am not her. It depends on your actions. What do you want? I don't want anything but my power. I want my things back. All right. The power Upanishad symbol tower you got belongs to me. You should return it to me too. I brought Brian and Ming Hao there in the hope that they could bring it back to me. Unexpectedly, you got it instead. Zi Yao smiled, extending one of her fulgent, jade-like hands. Give it back to me. Boom! Shi Yan felt thunderclaps booming hard in his head as billions of light rays bloomed. The power Upanishad symbol tower was stimulated, trying to escape from his brain and return to Zi Yao's hand. Everybody turned aghast. Chapter 1492. Chapter 1492. The dialogue between the absolute beginning creatures, __. Shi Yan got the power Upanishad symbol tower from a vestige on the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation. It was an absolute beginning vestige that hid the secrets and glory of that era. Currently, their glorious time was gone, and many absolute beginning creatures had fallen. The small numbers of the remaining absolute beginning creatures had secluded themselves, rarely showing up. Zi Yao was a clone of the absolute beginning creature Hui. She was the materialization of Hui's spirit, will, and soul. That year, she had brought Ming Hao and Brian to the absolute beginning vestige undersea with the hope of taking back the power Upanishad symbol tower. She had laid a wisp of her soul seal in the power Upanishad symbol tower. That seal had the same aura as her soul. She could use it to control the power Upanishad symbol tower. Give it back to me. Zi Yao's voice was gentle and charming like a sweet little lover. People who heard her would unconsciously follow her. Her attractive voice, why is it so similar to our Phantom Clan? Mei Ji's face slightly changed. She had a strange feeling when she saw Zi Yao. It seemed like Zi Yao had a magical connection with the Phantom Clan's enchanting technique. The women from the Phantom Clan were born with the gift of mind or enchanting secret techniques. It wasn't a power Upanishad, but something magical that existed in their souls. At this moment, Zi Yao's voice was much similar to when they used the mind or charming techniques. Shi Yan wore a stiff face. Many thunderclaps were booming and reverberating in his head. The power Upanishad symbol tower slowly flew out of his soul altar, getting away from his control. The power Upanishad symbol tower had a snake soul seal that was hidden deep inside the power Upanishad symbol tower. Shi Yan had never seen it before. At this moment, that soul seal appeared following Zi Yao's voice. It drew the power Upanishad symbol tower, heading toward her hand. Zi Yao's seducing voice had attracted his soul, troubling him from concentrating to control the power Upanishad symbol tower. The power Upanishad symbol tower slowly enlarged as it emerged from Shi Yan's head, flying toward Zi Yao. Hero, Edgar, and Montesi had their eyes brightened. They were mesmerized as they gazed at the power Upanishad symbol tower. Hero and Montesi were hesitant. They were afraid that they would wound Shi Yan, so they didn't dare to take any rash action. Edgar didn't mind it that much. His eyes glowed with a basil green light like a savage wolf, seeing its prey. He didn't care why Hui was here, raising his hand to snatch the power Upanishad symbol tower. The blood hand shadowed the sky, bringing the power of death, destruction, and chaos as it aimed at the power Upanishad symbol tower. A tricolored vortex spun in the middle of the hand. It was black, blood red, and gray. A terrifying suction force appeared like a giant snake opening its mouth to suck the air, drawing in all lives, souls, and god power of creatures in the surrounding areas. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The strong blast of wind entered that blood hand. The power Upanishad symbol tower was now a massive kite swaying in the air, as if it was tied to two lines at the same time. Sometimes it was pulled toward Zi Yao, and in the next moment it headed to Edgar. Abruptly, Edgar and Ziyao were vying for the Power Upanishad symbol tower. Edgar, your ancestor taught you rules, didn't he? Ziyao was intercepted, so her beautiful face began to frost. I know your ancestor has asked you to take the Power Upanishad symbol tower, but if I don't help it with its current condition, do you think it can deal with them? Dare to compete with me. You don't know right and wrong. Oh, I don't know what my ancestor has discussed with you, but I know he really needs the Power Upanishad symbol tower. Edgar's eyes were cold and harsh. So I have to get it. No matter who will be my enemy, I will take it. Air. Montesi was surprised. Then she sniggered, her little face happy. Just let them bite each other. Hiro also wanted to get involved in that competition for the Power Upanishad symbol tower, but he was afraid that he would offend Shiryan. He hesitated and didn't advance. Seeing Edgar suddenly interrupt Ziyao, he could finally relax. Shiryan's sea of consciousness was intruded by Ziyao's charming technique. At this moment, he was trying to cut off the evil thought in his sea of consciousness. He didn't have extra efforts left to do anything. Thick mist rolled out of the dark abyss behind Edgar, while waves of blood came with the mist. Devour was doing something. Finally, you guys have come. Lebit sounded relieved, his voice coming from the dark abyss. Then, a group of devouring clansmen emerged from the dark abyss. Most of them had profound realms at the immortal realm, and the lowest realm was the first sky of incipient god realm. There was also a guy who had just reached the territory ancestor realm like Lebit. Devour had summoned them from the sea domain of nihility to this desolate territory. There were around 100 of them, giving Edgar a strong backup. As soon as they appeared, they turned to greet the dark abyss using their tribal language. Then they focused their soul consciousness to supply energy to Devour. Slowly, the dark abyss changed as it was receiving energy from the others. A brutal, wild roar of some beast from the chaotic time of the world arose from the dark abyss, shaking everybody in this area. Edgar was pulling the Power Upanishad symbol tower from Ziyao, his face happy and laughing. Our ancestors calling his real body. Wait until he comes. Let's see what you have to vie with us then. True body. Xian He, Ming Hao, and Frederick were stunned. They became skeptical. Isn't that dark abyss Devour's real body? When Ziyao heard Edgar, her face changed for the first time. She rolled her eyes at the dark abyss. You dare to take your body out here? Aren't you afraid of vanishing in this place? If it finally merges all the clones within its territory, you and I or anybody else will be refined. We can't even run to the end of the void. It will hunt us down and eat us up. Ruorer. A roar which conveyed some meanings using the absolute beginning language arose from the dark abyss, echoing around the ancient demon star area. As Ziyao was distracted, Shiryan had finally cut off the evil thought in his head. At this moment, he immediately understood the meaning on hearing the roar. You and I had struck it hard, and its body was divided into 5 parts. Now, some of its parts have fused with other individuals. It will never be recovered fully. That was what that roar conveyed. Only the ones who understood the absolute beginning language could get the message of that roar. Ziyao was a clone of Hui, so she could understand it easily. Besides her, only Shiryan could do that. Since Audrey hadn't fused completely with the origin, she just felt familiar and got some words of it. The Power Upanishad symbol tower should belong to me. Do you really want to vie for it against me? Ziyao shouted indignantly. Roar! The roar resounded from the dark abyss again. Phantom had built the Power Upanishad symbol tower, not you. It should belong to the Phantom clan. The Phantom clan was born from Phantom's fragments when she died. How could the Power Upanishad symbol tower belong to you? Shiryan understood what Devour was talking, but the others didn't. He was stunned, turning to look at Montesi and Meiji. He knew the origin of the Phantom clan now. It turned out that there was another absolute beginning creature called Phantom. After she died, the Phantom clan was created. She was the ancestor, the soul and flesh of the Phantom clan. Phantom had built the Power Upanishad symbol tower, so it should belong to the Phantom clan. Phantom and I were like sisters. I had contributed a lot of precious materials to build the tower. I'm the co-owner. She is gone, so it should belong to me. If you dare to vie for it, I won't satisfy you. Zi Yao used the absolute beginning language to reply to devour. Some of the warriors here knew the absolute beginning written language like Montesi or Hero. However, they didn't understand the spoken language. They didn't know what was going on to react properly. You've got a clone of Desolate, so you should understand the absolute beginning language. What are they talking about? Montesi turned to Shuryen, who answered instinctively. They're talking about your origin, about your ancestor. The Power Upanishad symbol tower belongs to you guys. The warriors of the Phantom clan were stunned on hearing him. Montesi and Meiji had a sparkling light in their eyes. Tell us more details. Montesi hissed. They said that your ancestors called Phantom. After she was gone, her soul and flesh became the Phantom clan. They also said that Phantom had fabricated the Power Upanishad symbol tower, explained Shuryen. Montesi's and Meiji's soft bodies trembled slightly. They didn't know their origin. They didn't know how the Phantom clan was created, neither anything about their ancestor until today. Finally, they knew that the ancestor of the Phantom clan was also an absolute beginning creature called Phantom. She had even fabricated the Power Upanishad symbol tower. Ahaha! Turns out the Power Upanishad symbol tower belongs to our Phantom clan. It's our possession. Montesi gritted her teeth. Her face grimaced. She urged Shuryen again. Why did our ancestor Phantom die? Listen carefully, please. We want to know the details. Do you think you can take the Power Upanishad symbol tower using your true body? Don't forget that half of my true body's here too. If you dare to come, I can still suppress you. Zi Yao was filled with the flames of anger. The void was torn in the center of the ancient god continent, revealing the chaotic space basin. 6 massive snakes were discernible, half of their bodies connected to the ancient god continent. Explosions echoed deafeningly. As the mountains cracked and collapsed, a bunch of giant snakes crawled out of the ground. The snakes hissed at the voice as if they wanted to scare some creature away from this area. The space passage was cracked open above the god zenith on the ancient god continent. People could vaguely see the scenes happening on the ancient demon continent. It seemed that as long as the ancient demon continent had some commotion, half of Huey's real body could come from the chaotic space basin and join with the other half on the ancient god continent. Then they could come to the ancient demon continent at any minute. Chapter 1493. I saw that I died. Chapter 1493. I saw that I died. In a corner of the ancient god star area, 7 suns were burning brightly. The magnificent red-orange flames on them were like fish scales moving in water. A small space floated in the center of the 7 suns, in between the levitating flames. A ferocious beast slowly moved inside the current of lava. Its belly made a boop-boop sound as if it was burning fierily. The 7 blazing suns sent the furious flames toward that beast and quenched its body. The beast looked like a scorching red iron. It was Ghost Hunter in its bestial body. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. It sank into the rapid lava current as the acid fluid inside the stomach was melting Pu Tai's body to take in the remainder of Bloodthirsty's aura in Pu Tai's body. It roared earth-shakingly, which stimulated the flames. The 7 suns exploded at the same time. After the suns were shattered, a space tear emerged, 2 ancient continents flying out of it. They were the desolate and ancient demon continent. The sky was filled with the shooting flames from the broken suns. With such a background, the two continents magically merged together like two drops of water. After less than 10 seconds, the two ancient continents became one, turning into a massive, dazzling planet. Ghost Hunter swelled and doubled his size. His bestial body moved above the ancient continent to absorb the immensely abundant heaven and earth energy there. The life energy in his body accumulated and fluctuated incredibly, and his eyes changed slowly. They weren't savage anymore, and had become calm and archaic like a prominent wise old man or a sage. He gave people an impression of a person with a deep and wide knowledge. Waves of blinding light emerged from the beast. Slowly, he transfigured into his human form. He was still Ghost Hunter, who somehow took after Shuryen. However, his aura was mysterious and profound, his eyes like deep lakes that people could never gauge in terms of the mysteries they kept. He turned toward a direction and flew away. The massive continent that had just formed followed him closely like his shadow. On another sun, God Lord Brian looked stern. 5 colored flames shot out of his eyes as he was having some magical transformation. Brian had the immortal realm cultivation base with the dark energy, being just one small step away from the territory ancestor realm. At this moment, he was fusing the heaven flames for the last time to activate the seal of Desolate's clone in his sea of consciousness. It would help him understand the absolute beginning language and something marvelous of that era. 10,000 years ago, he got the ability to fuse the heaven flames. However, he had hesitated and didn't make that step. He wasn't so sure that he would still be himself if he took that step. He was afraid that Desolate's clone would possess him. Thus, he had hesitated for 10,000 years, not daring to try. He had laid his hope in Shuryen, waiting to see what would happen to him. While they were on the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation, his soul and Audrey's soul had fused with Desolate's clone in Shuryen. They had all survived, and nothing unexpected happened. Moreover, Audrey got the soul refining cauldron, while he got the dark energy. Shuryen had also received big benefits. He thought that if he finally fused all the heaven flames, the error wouldn't happen like he had thought. Thus, he now started his final fusion. The 5-colored, magnificent flames mingled with each other in his sea of consciousness. His soul was light, floating through the past and present, sinking in the river of time. He was just a bystander watching a terrifying battle. This scale of battle should belong to the absolute beginning era. It was the war between the absolute beginning creatures. He could see many pieces of memory from one of the 5 clones of Desolate. Although the images he got weren't complete, there were parts of the history of that era when he had fused with the heaven flames and the origin of the Grace mainland. Time flew hurriedly. Vaguely, it seemed so long, but short, like a blink of an eye at the same time. He didn't actually have any concept of time. He woke up, his eyes puzzled. Right after that, he seemed to realize something magical, and his expression changed. Lifting his head, he faced the sky. Something had shaded the sun. He focused and found a massive planet. From that planet, he could feel an old but very powerful aura that he couldn't resist. That aura, he used to sense it, it was Desolate's aura. Ghost Hunter plunged from that continent, landing by him. Brian was frightened as a strong vibe came from deep in his soul. It was a desperate feeling from when the apocalypse had happened. He had the consciousness of Desolate in his soul, so he knew who this Ghost Hunter standing in front of him was. In my world, there shouldn't be a new territory ancestor. Otherwise, my world will be divided, and my strength will be split up. Ghost Hunter looked at him indifferently. His face had the expression that shouldn't appear on a human, looking extremely nonchalant. After Bloodthirsty had reached the territory ancestor realm, you also joined that bloody battle. You still didn't get it, did you? Ghost Hunter spoke in absolute beginning language. Brian understood clearly. He was dazed for a while, then he ran away as soon as he realized something suddenly. As you've completely fused with my clone and a part of my soul, you're predestined to be killed, said Ghost Hunter, his face cold. Every 10,000 years, I gave away a Genesis fruit. I hoped the one who got it could merge all of my clones into one. Unfortunately, no one succeeded. The chosen one this time has a high success rate, but I didn't estimate that Hui and Devour would be awakened. I didn't give him more time to do that. It's really begrudging that I have to take action earlier than planned. Although I will have to lose part of my power, I don't have any other options around. Ghost Hunter opened his arms, his hands towering the entire sky. Billions of holy rays tied Brian's soul and destiny like a cage. You're a loser. If you had succeeded that year, there wouldn't have been many troubles like that. Ghost Hunter spoke coldly. Then he opened his mouth and inhaled. Brian was like a frozen, tiny person. The light refined him and dragged him into Ghost Hunter's mouth. You were born in my world. From the moment you were born, you got my soul seal. How could you rebel against me? Swish! Brian had turned into a streak of light, disappearing into Ghost Hunter's mouth. Ghost Hunter flashed and reappeared on the ancient continent above his head. That ancient continent moved strangely inside the ancient God Star area, heading toward the ancient God continent of the God Clan. Listen and tell us what they are talking about. I want to know the origin of our Phantom Clan and why our ancestor died. Montesi asked Shi Yen to listen carefully. Shi Yen frowned. He listened to her and eavesdropped at the conversation between Devour and Xiao. He was different from Brian. After fusing completely with the Heaven Flames, the Origin, he could see some events in the Absolute Beginning era and could understand the Absolute Beginning language. However, he still didn't know about the conflict between those Absolute Beginning creatures. He knew 1/5 of what Desolate had experienced. They were just missing pieces of a whole picture, which didn't help him much. It was like he got only a piece of a 5-piece picture. He couldn't know what that picture was about. As long as he gathered all the pieces, he could know about the full contents. Oh! Sure, Yen suddenly screamed in fear, his face pale. He put a hand on his forehead while mumbling, I don't know why I feel extremely insecure, like something very terrible has happened. This feeling had come unknowingly, and it was hard to explain. It was the instinctive feeling that came from deep inside his soul. Ah! Audrey screamed from behind him. She was clutching her head, her eyes panic-stricken as if she had seen something very horrible. She shook her head and screamed ear-piercingly, Don't come here! Don't come here! It seemed like she was tortured by her nightmare. What's wrong? Are you okay? Adele screamed. I saw that I died. I saw someone kill me. Audrey yelled like she was suffering from some serious mental disease. She didn't have any color on her face. It's like I foresaw something that would happen in the near future. It's so scary. Shi Yen darkened his face. He walked to Audrey, lowering his voice. In your nightmare, who killed you? Ghost Hunter. It's Ghost Hunter who had killed me. Audrey shook her head, helplessly. God, Lord Brian was killed. I'm sure he was killed. I saw Ghost Hunter kill and then eat him. You're just tired. You should rest first. You got a nightmare in daylight. It seems you've borne a lot of pressure these days. Adele tried to comfort her. No, it's not a dream. Montesi, who cultivated time power, Upanishad intervened. What she saw will happen soon. She's a soul clone of Desolate. She has Desolate's seal in her soul, so she can vaguely get what Desolate has calculated. Montesi turned to Shi Yen, then pondered, then said, Before that man appeared, I had felt strange. I think it doesn't look like a beast. Now that I have heard from Audrey, I'm sure he's Desolate. He got the thought of killing Audrey, and she could feel that because she has a part of its soul in her head. It's like the connection between your host soul and the co-soul. You can exchange thought and plans. Audrey can get its ideas that way too. Shi Yen, you've made another step ahead of Audrey. You've completely fused with one of its soul clones. If Audrey can feel something, what about you? Ming Hao asked. Xian, he, Frederick, and the others turned toward him, their faces uncontrollably stern. I could only feel that something terrible is about to happen, but it's not clear like Audrey. I don't know why. Shi Yan squinted as a terrifying fear churned in his heart. He had never thought that Desolate would possess Ghost Hunter. Ghost Hunter! Ghost Hunter! Did he develop the magical relationship with Desolate because he had swallowed Song Yin, or was he a piece on its chessboard right from the beginning? Is he the perfect creature Desolate had used the second essence drop of its blood to create after Bloodthirsty? Chapter 1494 The True Body Arrives. Chapter 1494 The True Body Arrives. Underscore. At the end of the void where space rolled and shattered, so many wrecked battleships and corpses were floating and drifting around. It was an ancient battlefield. Until today, this place was still an abandoned place. Even the territory ancestor realm experts from the 7 great clans didn't dare to wander in this area. It was at the edge of the sea domain of nihility, a spot that had layers of corpses, battleships, and broken stars suddenly shook fiercely for a while. A beast roar came from that spot, which people had never heard before. Billions of light beams boomed, and an absolute beginning creature emerged in all this commotion. It was as big as a whole planet with innumerable tentacles. At first glance, that absolute beginning creature resembled a giant octopus that had been zoomed billions of times. From some aspects, it looked like a massive leech with tentacles and suckers. When it wiggled its massive body, space around twisted as if it could collapse at any minute. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Thick darkness multiplied under this ink-black creature, creating a deep abyss. It slowly sank, disappearing into that abyss of darkness. As soon as it disappeared, the ancient battlefield where it had hidden for so many years exploded immediately. The bestial roaring thundered unceasingly from the dark abyss in the ancient Demon Star area. The 1,000-meter-long tentacles jutted out of the abyss, wriggling and twisting their way you. The members of the devouring clan like Edgar and Lebit were full of admiration and respect. They pressed their foreheads on those suckers like children receiving love from their parents. They looked happy and satisfied. Welcome, ancestor. Welcome, ancestor. Welcome, ancestor. Edgar, Lebit, and all other members of the devouring clan cheered wholeheartedly, their faces filled with joy. Shi Yan felt chilled. He suddenly realized that the entire world was frozen by some evil power, and, although he was the master of this star area, Shi Yan had lost his control. His face changed drastically. When he heard Edgar and the others cheering, he knew that the horrible incident had happened. Devour's real body has arrived at the dark abyss. It's complete now. The moment the tentacles stretched outward from the dark abyss, Montesi and Hero knew that it wasn't good. They stopped talking, their faces solemn, especially Montesi and Hero. After a while, Hero sighed. What a powerful life magnetic field. Yeah, that's the absolute beginning creature which has lived for billions of years. No matter what they've experienced, their life form and level are the most terrifying. Montesi was also surprised, nodding her head. I got it. Hero's eyes brightened. The dark abyss is just the brain of Devour's body. It's like his territory. What has just arrived is his real body. He's complete now. His energy fluctuations are more intimidating than Edgar's. Desolate and Hui had joined hands and fought against Desolate, who was divided into 5 pieces. Devour and Hui were hurt severely, and then they all went dormant. Shi Yan remembered the images he got in his head, talking gloomily. But Devour hasn't recovered its strength fully now. Hasn't recovered fully? Montesi looked bitter. He dares come here. However, at this moment, Ziyao was enraged. Her beautiful face looked as though she had a flame on it. Her pretty pupils had 9 brilliant rainbows. Roar! The beast roared crazily from Ziyao's body, no less brutal and evil than Devour. Right above Ziyao, a massive snakehead swayed through the space slit and broke it. 12 snakes, Huey's true body, were coming while bringing its wrath. They wanted to take the Power Upanishad symbol tower and arrive at this desolate territory to fight Devour. The Power Upanishad symbol tower is used to refine the absolute beginning original symbol. It's really magical and precious, but it's just a tower, and the two absolute beginning creatures even want to fight with their real bodies? Don't you think they are making a scene? Meiji was shaken. She didn't care about the others anymore as she clutched Shiryen, her face surprised. After she had reached the territory ancestor realm, Meiji was more deliberate. She didn't care about what the others might think anymore. Perhaps the Power Upanishad symbol tower has something magical we don't know yet. Otherwise, Devour and we wouldn't need to fight like that. Sure, Yen was puzzled as well. He thought that when he obtained the Grace mainland's origin completely, he could understand the absolute beginning language to decode the Power Upanishad symbol tower. But it wasn't that simple. He had fused with one soul clone of Desolate and finally understood the absolute beginning language, becoming able to read the tadpole symbols. However, he hadn't found the secrets of the tower yet. It seemed that there was something stopped him from knowing the secret. He guessed that it should be something really big. Phantom and I had to endure so many obstacles to create this key. To make it, we had to pay a lot. Phantom has fallen, perhaps because of this tower. You dare to take things belong to me. No matter what, I will let you know my power. Yao became frantic all of a sudden, screaming in absolute beginning language. Amidst her screams, many massive snakes appeared in the void. Huey's body was in the ancient God star area to refine the ancient God continent. Since Devour had brought its real body here, she couldn't help but tear the space to arrive as well. This star area became completely chaotic because of the two absolute beginning creatures. Shiryen had fused with the origin of the Grace mainland. In this star area, he was affected, so he couldn't use the power from the planets anymore. He had recognized that the ancient demon star area couldn't endure it, even though the two beasts hadn't fought yet. Key. Sure, Yen was startled when he got the keyword from the two's dialogue. Finally, he could confirm that the Power Upanishad symbol tower wasn't only used to create the absolute beginning original symbol. It was also a crucial key, but Hui and Devour hadn't mentioned the function of this key. What are they talking about? Asked Hero and Montesi. Nothing important. They're just quarreling. He didn't want to share the information about the key with Montesi and Hero. Shiryen. The little skeleton hadn't said anything since the beginning. At this moment, it came and looked at Shiryen, his eyes begging. Hero and Gay reacted, and the former said, "How are you doing? You got a lot of energy already. Is it enough to awaken our precursors?" Shiryen nodded toward Gay in response, who used his power to make the two coffins fly over, ceasing right in front of Shiryen. At this moment, Hero and Gay had observed the situation and found that everything had turned beyond their control. They didn't know if the Whitebone clan could receive any benefit from this. Thus, if they could achieve the goal of this trip a little earlier, they could retreat shortly and easily. The members of the Whitebone clan opened their eyes wide, yearning and waiting. Shiryen pondered for a while and then ignored the quarrel between Hui and Devour, talking, "Let me try." The black holes of the devouring Power Upanishad in his acupuncture points were stirred up as he willed. They were like fierce furnaces that sent the mysterious rolling energy from his acupuncture points to his incipient extent. The light ball created by his life Power Upanishad was sucking the energy quickly. Shortly, the absolute beginning original symbol inside the life ball, an amber source of life, was brimming with an incredible vitality. Shiryen held his breath, rolling his eyes. He used the absolute beginning language, hissing, surging vitality. Boom! 2 flows of sea-like vitality gushed out of his eyes. That sort of energy was ivory-colored and crystal clear, which could create lives and nurture every creature. The abundant vitality was poured into the 2 skeletons inside the coffins, which were ash-gray and didn't look shiny, seeming about to decay soon. Receiving the life energy, the skeletons glowed slowly. Light, dots like the fireflies, flashed inside the skeletons. It seemed that their flame of soul had been ignited one more time. The light dots moved slowly and stopped in their skulls, entering the soul altars. Thump, 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 thump. Although the life energy in them was feeble, Shiryen could hear the heartbeat clearly. Hero, who was at the second sky of a mortal realm, sensed it immediately and screamed in thrill, "It has worked!" The little skeleton had tears in his eyes. His bony arms stroked his parents' bodies, speaking in the ancient language of the White Bone Clan. Father, mother. At the same time, on the ancient God continent, because the heaven snakes of Huey's body had continually sucked the energy of the continent, the ancient God continent had only the ash-gray gas hovering in the atmosphere. There were no creatures on this planet. The mountains collapsed and the rivers dried. Without a minute sign of life, it was a barren, isolated planet. There were several life stars around where dwelled the 12 families of the God clan. They lived there to guard the ancient God continent. All of them had the green snake mark on their foreheads. They had a new master now. Hui was now their goddess mother. They had lost their faith and betrayed their bloodline. At this moment, Charlint of the Charteris family was cultivating on a life star when his heart suddenly beat frantically. He couldn't help but lift his head to look at the high sky while mumbling, "Why do I feel like a Kalpa is about to come? This feeling comes from deep in my soul, but it's really magical." He was not the only one who had that feeling. The ones whom Ziyao had asked to guard this area were also frightened unknowingly. It was like a shadow had shrouded their soul altar, pressing their soul and making them insecure. A great planet came with so many clusters of clouds, shadowing the entire ancient God continent. Charlint and everybody else were frightened. They walked out of their life stars, watching the colossal planet in fear. Huey's body had just left. She had sent her soul message through the snake mark on her subordinates to make them watch over the ancient God continent. After just a second, something really bad was about to happen. The warriors who stayed here, like Charlint, were insecure, looking at that planet when a shadow slowly came into their vision. It was Ghost Hunter. As soon as he emerged, his eyes showed his cold and resolute intention. "We can hide your souls, but it can't erase the mark I've left inside you. Unless it has finished the ancient God continent, the mark will still work. Too bad for you guys that I've had Brian and the soul clone of the ancient God continent. So, you low people who have betrayed me once, you've been predestined to be erased." Thousands of magical light rays rained from the sky like sharp daggers, piercing through Charlint's and the others' soul altars. Everyone with the snake mark on their foreheads was killed instantly. Not long after Huey's body was gone, the ancient God continent, after billions of years apart, had finally returned to desolate. Chapter 1495. The Day the Star Area Ends. Chapter 1495. The Day the Star Area Ends. The 2 ash-gray skeletons inside the coffins slowly had a fulgent light emitting from them. Vitality could be detected inside their skulls. The little skeleton had tears in his eyes, holding his parents' hands while crying inaudibly. Hero's eyes were red as well. Even though we didn't get anything from desolate territory, it's enough that they're finally awakened. Congratulations. The Whitebone clan will have 2 more territory ancestor realm experts. The Whitebone clan will thrive faster now. Montesi congratulated sincerely. Hero and the White Bone clan members were joyful, nodding excitedly. Sure, Yen stood still, his eyes closed while the energy on his body moved unceasingly. Suddenly he opened his eyes, looking at Ming Hao, Xianhe, and Frederick. Your chance is coming. Ming Hao, Xianhe, and Frederick were thrilled. They knew what Shi Yan meant. They immediately prepared to receive the energy from him. That power Upanishad, symbol tower, Meiji said skeptically. At this moment, the power Upanishad symbol tower was floating between Hui and the dark abyss. Zi Yao was sitting on the head of a massive snake, her face cold, her eyes radiant. Tianxia and the others hovered behind that snake, struggling with the devouring clan. On the devouring clan's side, Edgar, Lebit, and the others were surrounding the dark abyss. The two energies, one was the 9-colored outer space divine light and the other was a column of dark light, were coiling around the power Upanishad symbol tower, pulling and tugging. Hui and Devour vied for the power Upanishad symbol tower, but they didn't ignite the battle. They didn't use their lives to fight, as it seemed that they were both afraid of something. They didn't mind Shi Yan's team much. To them, the power Upanishad symbol tower was the most important thing. Meiji screamed as she wanted to ask if Shi Yan wanted to join that competition for the power Upanishad symbol tower. Anyway, the power Upanishad symbol tower had a connection with him and his co-soul. As Shi Yan was about to answer her, he felt his soul shaking hard. He then turned to Audrey. Audrey was shivering, sweat beading her forehead. It was like she was having a nightmare, and the darkness had shrouded her one more time. She was panicked beyond words. He suddenly recognized a terrifying threat that had risen and expanded like the tide. He pondered, then talked to Hero and Montesi. We should get back to the Grace mainland first. I am giving the power Upanishad symbol tower up. I feel quite insecure right now. Hero and Montesi turned to Audrey as if they could also feel that horrible terror. Montesi cried, "It hasn't awakened. It has woken up." Shi Yan forced a smile. Audrey saw Brian being killed. It means it's taking action. Because Audrey, Brian, and I have a soul connection, I know it has started to take action. Since Hui and Devour are in its territory, they don't know yet. Everybody was terrified. In one's territory, there was no chance to defeat him. Shi Yan's presumption had frightened everybody else. Without hesitation, they nodded as they knew that the situation would be unfavorable. We should return to the Grace mainland first. Then, we have to move the Grace mainland out of here. Shi Yan resolutely said, and everybody nodded in agreement. While Devour and Hui were still vying for the power Upanishad symbol tower, Shi Yan, Hero, Montesi, and the others had forcefully torn the space barriers to leave the ancient demon continent. They urged the power Upanishads, using the maximum speed to enter the Agate Star area and Grace mainland. Shi Yan, are you going to move the Grace mainland out of desolate territory? When Xia Xianyan and Fu Wei got to know of Shi Yan's intention, they were scared out of their wits. They thought that he was crazy. I don't have time to explain carefully. The Grace mainland must leave desolate territory as fast as possible. Otherwise, it will be the biggest calamity ever. Shi Yan looked worried. He thought, then asked Ming Hao and DeCarlos, "You've mastered space power Upanishad. I'm giving you 4 hours. You must bring all the warriors who have a good relationship with us to the Grace mainland. We're in a rush. I hope you can do that as fast as you can." Shi Yan, can you tell us what's going on? What will happen to desolate territory? Blood Devil and Yang Tian Emperor changed their countenances. Checking Audrey, Shi Yan tried to find the premonition in his soul. He took a deep breath and then said, "Desolate will destroy this world to gather energy. All creatures in this desolate territory have taken in the heaven and earth energy. So, The stronger they are, the more energy they have used. When Desolate was separated, it couldn't do that. But now it has woken up. All the warriors born in Desolate territory are parts of its power. In the past, it wouldn't do that. But now it needs a lot of energy to fight Devour and Hui. It's possible that it will annihilate this entire world to gather energy. Sure, Yen only had a vague feeling, which wasn't really clear. Normal people wouldn't be killed because they didn't absorb the heaven and earth energy. Hence, Desolate won't aim at them. It wants warriors. The stronger the warriors are, the harder it will be to escape. Yang Tian Emperor, Blood Devil, Xian He, Ming Hao, and De Carlos were chilled from fear. If I'm not wrong, it has started now. Today, it's slaughtering the ancient God Star area. Shi Yan took a deep breath and shouted, "We don't have much time. You guys scatter and take action. I know the Grace mainland has many teleportation formations. Every warrior with space power, Upanishad, should activate them all. Bring the ones who have a good relationship with us here. Hurry up." De Carlos and Ming Hao exchanged looks, then turned into jets of light and disappeared. Ming Hao had prepared to receive energy from Shi Yan, but now he didn't care that much, immediately flying away. "All of you go," Shi Yan urged. Xia Xian Yan, Yang Tian Emperor, Blood Devil, and Holy Beast Azure Dragon of the Heavenly Monster Tribe, as well as Fu Wei of the Potion and Tool Pavilion, looked like they knew that the end of the world was near. They turned into jets of light, moving away to prepare. Shi Yan tried to control, not letting his energy vanish as he talked to Hero and Montesi. "Give us some time." "All right." Hero and Montesi nodded. "You should know your limit. We can't linger here. If Desolate has recovered fully, you're not his match in this desolate territory. Hui and Devour are here too. If they can't realize this situation earlier, they will face big troubles as well. I know. After it killed all the creatures in the ancient God Star area, it will come for Audrey and me. We're the key." Sure, Yen felt a flame burning his heart. "Watch the Grace mainland for me. I have to leave and prepare. I owe somebody and have to bring them with me." "Sure." Hero and Montesi understood how dangerous the situation was, so they didn't ask and just agreed immediately. Shi Yan's body flashed, disappearing into the void of the Grace mainland. In just a blink of an eye, he had moved thousands of miles. Fortunately, the Agate Star area had merged with many other star areas. With the origin of the Grace mainland, Shi Yan could create the connection with the other stars in this star area to teleport immediately. He reappeared in the Fantasy Mist Star area, landing on a life star. It was the Water Cloud Star under the Drifting Fires management. The Shang family was cultivating in a massive city. Shang Yingyu was trying to comprehend her power inside a snow chamber. Shi Yan appeared there all of a sudden. "Who's there?" Shang Yingyu opened her eyes, carrying a murderous aura. However, she turned thrilled instantly, screaming ear-piercingly, "Shi Yan! Come here, all of you!" Shi Yan's soul consciousness covered every corner of the city. Shang Qiu and Lia, Shang Chen, and Shusha had received his message. They immediately gathered in the secret chamber. "Shi Yan, where have you been?" "Kid, why are you here?" "What happened?" Shi Yan wore a heavy face. "I don't have time to explain much." "I'm here to take you away. I give you 15 minutes to prep. Then, I will take you out of here. I repeat, you have 15 minutes to bring your relatives here. All the experts in this star area will be killed shortly. If you want to live, you have to listen to me." He looked at Shang Yingyu deep in her eyes and then disappeared. Everybody of the Shang family was petrified. Shang Qiu and Enlia didn't get a clue. They thought that Shi Yan was crazy. Shang Chen was bewildered for a while and then yelled resolutely, "Why are you still idle? He gave us only 15 minutes. You think you got plenty of time? Move, quick. Gather all the people you want to take with you." "Hey!" And Leah was perplexed. Shut up! Shangqin bellowed. Move quickly! He's the master of the bloodthirsty force now. His life magnetic field is much more powerful than Ming Hao. Do you think he would come here just to prank you at his realm and new position? And Leah was frightened. Shesha, her mother, also knew that the doomsday was coming. She hurried as if she had her brows on fire. Do as he said. Shi Yan's next stop was the fiery rain star area. Yu Shan was teaching Xian Fei Fire Power Upanishad inside a massive volcano with running lava. She had set up layers of barriers that normal people couldn't break. Boop! 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 Yu Shan knew her barriers were torn. As she was still baffled, she saw a shadow landing. It was Shi Yan. All creatures in this star area will be obliterated soon. If you want to live, leave with me. Now. Shi Yan didn't talk any nonsense. As soon as he arrived, he told them his purpose right away. Yu Shan and Xian Fei were dumbstruck, looking at him blankly. After a while, Yu Shan nodded solemnly. We always work alone. We can leave at any minute. And just like that, they left the place with Shi Yan. With soul control power Upanishad, Shi Yan could make thousands of soul clones visit the Gu God sect in the hollow fearsome star area, the Wu family in the prosaic star area, and the Shao family in the Sirius star area. At the same time, De Carlos, Ming Hao, Xian He, and Frederick were gathering all the ones they could at their maximum speed. The warriors in the Agate star area like Fu Wei, Blood Devil, Gu Tei, and Bath also took action. The teleportation formations on the Grace mainland were working at their max capacity, bringing many warriors to the land. The scattered experts everywhere, the ones who had good connections with Shi Yan, had been gathered. Chapter 1496, The Ark. Chapter 1496, The Ark. _ Many warriors at high realms in the ancient God Star area were crouching on the ground. They faced the deep sky while shaking uncontrollably. It was due to the vibe that came from deep inside their souls. Those with a soul altar felt extremely aghast, with a deep despair originating from the soul. They watched the sky and the ancient God continent that was disappearing and many life stars exploding. Finally, they knew something very terrible was taking place in the star area. Although heaven and earth energy on many life stars was drained, the ordinary human beings weren't affected. They were safe and sound, even though the most terrifying doomsday was coming. So many life stars that were higher than level 3 had many warriors gathering to absorb the heaven and earth energy. However, at this moment, those warriors were all dying. Many soul altars had cracks that they couldn't heal or stop. They fragmented, scattering everywhere. Many souls were erased in the ancient God Star area. The massive ancient continent moved above the ancient God Star area like a horror phantom that cast its shadow all over the star areas. Wherever it passed, the soul altars of the experts exploded. A massive ancient tree grew on the ancient continent that could shade the entire ancient continent. Ghost Hunter was standing on the tree, his eyes gray and cold. He didn't have any human emotions on his face. The fierce soul magnetic field shot out of him. He was the reason why the others' soul altars were shattered. He was harvesting lives of the powerful experts. He would make this star area his exclusive world. It would change and transform into his sharp weapon. He drove the ancient continent, moving to a dead star while his cold eyes were gazing at it. He raised his hands to tear the space. Crack! Crack! The icy dead star was cut into pieces as if some metal blades had minced it. For shadows stormed out, releasing the strongest powers they had while risking their lives to attack the other. They were the 4 heavenly kings. The 4 heavenly kings were returning to the ancient God continent after their failed mission of killing the God Lord. However, they couldn't pierce through the space to return to Hui. They had tried every method they could to leave the ancient God Star area. Unfortunately, the ancient God Star area was closed. After fusing desolate and the ancient demon continent, Ghost Hunter was slowly recovering. Before he took action, he had sealed the ancient Godstar area. If even Hui or Devour came here, they shouldn't dream about getting in. This was his world. Here, he was the only rule maker, the sole god. The 4 heavenly kings couldn't escape. They had to hide with the hope of ducking this culpa. However, in desolate territory, they looked funny trying to hide because no one could. Ghost Hunter arrived, and they finally admitted that it was the doomsday today. They couldn't duck, so they had to risk their lives. You were born because of me, and you will die because of me. It's your fate that was decided when you were born. Ghost Hunter's eyes were cold while glaring at the 4 heavenly kings. Halfway, their bodies withered strangely as though they were big balloons that got deflated. They were dried up shortly. The light in their eyes dimmed. Before they could reach Ghost Hunter, their soul altars had been shattered already. The 4 streams of pure energy scattered, and the towering ancient tree on the ancient continent became lush. Ghost Hunter stood on the big tree, driving the ancient continent around the ancient Godstar area to find the spots where the experts were gathered and continuing to bring them a catastrophe. Ancient Demon Star area. Zi Yao's graceful body emitted billions of rays, making her the goddess of auspicious clouds. She used the 5 colored rays to tie the power Upanishad symbol tower. The rough, big tentacles reached out of the dark abyss. The absolute beginning creature Devour was grunting and roaring, vying for the power Upanishad symbol tower with Zi Yao. As Zi Yao didn't order them, Tian Xie and the others didn't attack the devouring clan warriors. When she had prepared to let her real body attack Devour, her face changed. It was also the moment the 4 heavenly kings were slaughtered. Different from Charlint and the others, Zi Yao had left a powerful seal in the souls of the 4 heavenly kings. As they were all at the 3rd sky of a mortal realm, Zi Yao had to pay a big price to make them obey. Thus, when Charlint and the others were massacred in the ancient Godstar area, Zi Yao didn't feel anything. But it was different in case of the 4 heavenly kings. When their souls vanished, Zi Yao felt it immediately. She frowned, using the absolute beginning language to talk to the dark abyss. Something's wrong. The tentacles from the dark abyss ceased, as it seemed to know that Zi Yao wouldn't cheat, waiting for her to talk more. Zi Yao stood still, knitting her brows. She released her soul consciousness to tear the space and enter the ancient Godstar area to check the situation. But she suddenly found that the space barrier of the ancient Godstar area was now 10 times tougher. Since she couldn't tear the space barrier, it meant that she couldn't enter the star area. She understood instantly. Except for the master of the star area, no one could strengthen the space barrier to that level. No one. It has awakened. Zi Yao looked fearful for the first time as she screamed immediately. It has awakened. It has started to merge the clones. By now, she suddenly realized that Shuriyan's side had left all of a sudden. Combining the 2 stories, she knew that things had gone wrong. The warrior with the ancient god continent's origin is dead. It must have gotten the ancient god continent now. The one with the ancient demon continent's origin is missing. Surely he was eaten as well. You meant that it has fused with 2 clones already? Devour screamed from the dark abyss. Certainly. Zi Yao took a deep breath, her face stern. You and I had joined hands, and we couldn't defeat it. We're all hurt now, and it's its territory. So, Devour came here for the power Upanishad symbol tower only. Listening to Zi Yao, he said resolutely, we shouldn't let it take the power Upanishad symbol tower at any cost. Swish! The power Upanishad symbol tower turned into a beam of dark light, falling into the dark abyss. Zi Yao didn't stop it. We must leave this territory. Fighting here, we won't have a chance to win, said Zi Yao. We should go. Devour didn't linger. He announced to his clansmen through the soul message Then the Devouring Clan experts jumped into the dark abyss one after another. The dark abyss that had existed in desolate territory for so many years now shrank and disappeared eventually. Zi Yao was bewildered. She cursed in absolute beginning language, then tore the space, running to the chaotic space basin with Tian Xie and her supporters. The chaotic space basin outside desolate territory was where she used to live. Even if she had to fight desolate here, she could move freely. Shortly, all the members of the Devouring Clan, Tian Xie, and Zi Yao's subordinates had disappeared from the ancient Demon Star area, which regained its quietness. Shortly after, the massive ancient continent appeared right where Zi Yao and Devour had just disappeared. Ghost Hunter stood on the life-ancient tree on the ancient continent. He squinted, his face icy cold as he knew that he was late. His archenemies had discovered the strange commotion and left already. Well, I haven't fused completely. Otherwise, they wouldn't have escaped, he mumbled, his eyes gazing at another continent, the God-blessed continent. Desolate had gotten 2 of the continents, which had strengthened him a lot. Now, only the God-blessed mainland and the Grace mainland were left. He eyed the former, closing his eyes to sense for a while, that little girl isn't here. If I don't kill her to get her soul, I can't fuse with the body. Then he decided to go to the Grace mainland star area first. Grace mainland. The teleportation formation in different areas on the Grace mainland flashed constantly, transporting many warriors to this continent. Shi Yan had created many clones, using the space power Upanishad to move through many planets to gather his friends. Shang Yingyu, Shang Chen, Wu Feng, Wu Bai, Sha Zhao, Xiao Mu, and the others had gathered on the Grace mainland. Fu Wei, Blood Devil, Feng Han, Ling Xing, Xian He, Frederick, Ming Hao, and De Carlos had used all methods they got to bring their friends to Grace mainland as well. They were insecure and worried, as they knew the apocalypse was coming. What happened, after all? Is it true? Wu Feng and the Wu family was gathered on a corner of the Grace mainland. They were still skeptical about what Shi Yan had told them. If you don't believe him, you can decide to not come. It's not compulsory anyway. Shang Yingyu said. She also didn't buy it. She didn't think that this immense universe would come to an end like Shi Yan had said. However, when she got here, she found many familiar faces, as well as the strikingly powerful experts. She gradually understood that the situation was really serious. If this world will be destroyed, how can Shi Yan protect us? And Leah had a blurry layer in her eyes, asking Shangqin. Sha Zhao, Xiao Mu, and the others also turned toward Shangqin, waiting for an answer. In this moment, they all felt their bodies and spirits sinking. They wanted to clutch on a buoy. They hoped that someone would show them a brighter future. This is the Grace mainland. Shi Yan has fused completely with the origin of this continent. He's trying his best to bring us here from miles away. He has his plan to do that. Although Shangqin cultivated the fate power Upanishad, he couldn't foresee his own fate or the movement principle of this world. It was like a massive shadow was covering everything, such that no one could see the future. Precursor Hero and Montesi, please help me protect this continent from the chaotic currents in the space basin. Shi Yan appeared in the voice, crying loudly. Hero, Montesi, Gay, and many experts nodded at him, waiting solemnly. Star floats. Starlight bloomed from Shi Yan's body, like the waterfall. Instantly, all the stars in the sky seemed to resonate with him, twinkling brightly like diamonds. People then found that the Grace mainland was moving really quickly. They also found that the void out there had so many bands of outer space streamers and energy storms, which were frighteningly dazzling. They screamed in fright when the entire continent tore the sky and jumped into the chaotic space basin, moving forward rapidly. Chapter 1497. Wipe out the entire world. Chapter 1497. Wipe out the entire world. Underscore. A massive planet suddenly appeared in the Grace mainland star area. Ghost Hunter looked enraged. It was the first time he felt so insecure. The Grace mainland could escape from desolate territory. His soul moved, and the entire star area emerged in his mind, showing him the population of warriors on different stars and even their realms. He was the sole god of this territory. They got the girl, too. His face turned colder as he couldn't detect Audrey's aura. He didn't hurry to go to the chaotic space basin. He knew Hui was there. He knew that his power hadn't recovered fully. If he got in there, he wouldn't get anything. So he decided to merge his territory. Under the stimulation of his will, spirit, and soul, the three interstar areas, Grace Mainland, Ancient Demon, and Ancient God Star area, slowly merged with each other. The impenetrable space barriers between the three star areas became supple, like water, then slowly disappeared. Without the space barriers, the star areas merged easily and quickly. Ghost Hunter then used his supernatural power to recover desolate territory's original appearance. From inside the massive ancient continent, life energy fluctuated. The continents moved, changing the layout of the entire star area. Ghost Hunter was Desolate's appearance as he began to move around the new star area. The experts Xian He, Shi Yan, and Ming Hao didn't bring with him were killed the same way. The energy from them had become the purest energy in desolate territory. Ming, Hao, and Xian he had asked some of them to leave, but they didn't believe them and decided to stay. Many people didn't want to leave their wealth or their grandchildren. Many others thought that they could avoid this slaughter. They hid in the strange forbidden area between the star areas to avoid this culpa. However, they couldn't do anything as they all disappeared amidst Ghost Hunter's massacre. Deep in their souls was Desolate's seal, which had rooted since they were born. There was no way to clear it. With that mark, Ghost Hunter could easily subdue and kill them. If they were at the territory ancestor realm, they could resist for a while. Anyway, such an invincible existence, like bloodthirsty, couldn't avoid his destiny. After he had reached the territory ancestor realm, he was still obliterated. At that time, Desolate hadn't fused with 3 clones. It just used the hands of the God Clan and the other experts to destroy Bloodthirsty. But now he had taken action himself, so no one could escape. The 3 continents were now one, becoming the real Desolate territory. None of the warriors with the soul altars in this territory could escape Ghost Hunter's genocide. Due to their deaths, the earth and heaven energy in Desolate territory became thicker magically, and more marvelous life stars were created. The life ancient tree on the ancient continent became more vibrant and towering. The life magnetic field became almost viscous. Chaotic space basin. It was a strange place where no life star had ever existed. A massive planet flew quickly, crossing the place. That planet had layers of gold, silver, and orange-red halos that covered it entirely. The cold flood of outer space, colliding asteroids, and strong blasts of winds were wreaking havoc everywhere, hitting that planet. However, under the protection of those massive light cages, explosions happened continually like the most brilliant fireworks outside the planet. However, it couldn't affect the space inside by even a bit. Millions of warriors were gathered on the planet. Most of them had high realms, but they had never had a chance to visit the chaotic space basin. At this moment, looking at the strange and terrifying scenes around them with energy attacking their planet, they were petrified. They had finally recognized that they had finally left their familiar surroundings, leaving for a strange place. Most of them believed in Shi, Yan, and what he had told him. But some still held on to their belief that their sky wouldn't face the apocalypse like he had mentioned. The sky above the immortal island. In between so many clusters of clouds, Shi Yan, Montesi, Hero, and the other experts sat on the clouds. their power surging. Light columns raised alarming smoke that reached the sky. As soon as those light columns connected the light cages around the planet, they strengthened their protection, preventing them from the dangers in outer space. Next to them, Audrey was unconscious. Ming, Hao, and Adele were watching her, in case something happened to her. Ming Hong's little figure appeared on Audrey's shoulder, his face aghast. He was so weak. After his soul form came out, he swayed as if he was affected badly. Ming, Hao, and Adele hurried to send him energy and protect his soul. Then, Ming Hao asked him what had happened. He was Audrey's soul slave, so he had a soul connection with her, which enabled him to know about her condition. As he had finally gotten out, he should have something to say. Ming Hong turned to Shi Yan, admiring him. It's lucky that we have him. If he hadn't taken action resolutely to move the Grace mainland, we would have all been killed. It was the first thing Ming Hong said. Shi Yan was connected to the Grace mainland, protecting it from the dangers in the chaotic space basin. He didn't hear Ming Hong appraising him. What had happened? Adele asked hurriedly. After we left desolate territory, I could escape that nightmare and get out of Audrey's head. Ming Hong pulled a stern face. In her nightmare, I saw the things that happened in desolate territory. It was a world-destroying calamity. As long as the warriors had soul altars, they couldn't escape death. The space barriers between the Grace mainland star area, the ancient God star area, and the ancient demon star area are gone. The 3 star areas have merged into one, turning into the original appearance of desolate territory. Desolate was divided into 5 parts, and because of different parts, many smaller star areas had appeared. However, they are all gone. Now, we have only one desolate territory. Xian He, Ming Hao, Adele, and DeCarlo stood around them. Listening to Ming Hong, they all had a pale face. They finally believed in Shi Yan. He was right, and his resolution had saved everybody. They weren't killed in desolate territory. Without Shi Yan, they would have been ignorant till their deaths. They wouldn't have known the terrifying things waiting for them, and would have been like the ones who were killed. They would have ended their lives in fear and despair. Ming Hao, Xian He, and Frederick looked at Shi Yan, feeling sincere respect from the bottom of their hearts for him. They had finally believed in him. Oh! All of a sudden, they heard someone groaning inside the 2 coffins by the little skeleton, who jumped in excitement. They woke up. My parents have finally woken up. Chapter 1498, Foresight. Chapter 1498, Foresight. Underscorna. The 2 precursors of the Whitebone clan had slept for 10,000 years. At this moment, people could see lights glowing in their skulls as they were about to wake up. Hero and Gay were in midair, helping Shi Yan create and maintain the light protection while they were moving in the chaotic space basin. When they heard the little skeleton cheer happily, they became astonished and joyful as well. Among the 7 great clans, the Whitebone clan was famous for their solidarity. However, their reproduction was a problem. That's why they had never had a civil war. For the welfare of the race, the Whitebone clan members could sacrifice themselves without a thought. To wake up their precursors, Hero and Gay had crossed thousands of miles to desolate territory. It was an excellent example of their unity. Is it okay now? Hero turned to Montesi. Can I go down first? Montesi's little face had a thin layer of sweat. She gave him a slight, gentle nod, her eyes looking tired. Hero immediately landed on the continent, approaching the little skeleton and eyeing the 2 precursors with a bright look. As he was watching, the 2 precursors of the Whitebone clan murmured something as if they were sleep-talking. Then they slowly opened their eyes. However, they still looked low-spirited and weak. It would be hard for them to recover shortly. They all looked at the little skeleton, their eyes showing their deep love and affection. "Father, Mother!" The little skeleton was so happy that he burst in tears. "My son, It's our biggest luck to see you now. We can't believe we can see you again." The female skeleton raised her shining bone hand to fondle the little skeleton's smooth forehead. She was talking in the archaic language of the White Bone Clan. In the sky, Shiryan's body gushed out starlight, which strengthened layers of light protection outside the Grace mainland. After a while, he stopped, nodding to Montesi. "It's laborious for you." "You're welcome," Montesi smiled gently. "We're family. Don't be too polite." She threw a glance to Meiji, who was shy and blushing. "Sure," Yen descended, only to see the little skeleton talk to his parents and Hiro, Gay, and the other members of the White Bone Clan greet their precursors. He nodded inwardly, then landed by Xian He, Frederick, and Ming Hao, sending his soul message. After 1 hour, the warriors cultivating the 8 power Upanishads like Yang Tian Emperor, Blood Devil, Leona, Katua, and Fei Lon gathered. They were skeptical when they saw Shiryan, because they didn't know why he had called for them. "I killed Pu Tai in the ancient Demon Star area and obtained his power Upanishad, soul, and spirit. After I had absorbed him, I've reached the 3rd sky of Immortal Realm." Then Hiro and Montesi joined hands to fight Devour, also giving me a lot of pure energy. It's really enormous. Yen spoke calmly, his eyes bright like diamonds as he gazed at the others. Xian He, Fei Lon, and the others were shaken with excitement. As they were used to it, they knew what would happen next. They didn't need Yen to talk more, immediately sitting down cross-legged and surrounding him. This amount of energy was extremely enormous. I will need time to digest and refine it. You guys should be ready. Yen checked his body, his face earnest. Many of the warriors whom Devour had killed instantly had a profound realm, most of them being at the incipient god realm. Their energy was enough for Yen to accumulate his god power to the upper limits of the 3rd sky of Immortal Realm. Moreover, he still had a huge amount of extra energy he couldn't digest in his body, which would benefit the bloodthirsty force a lot. Yen sat down, closing his eyes to digest the energy in his soul altar and acupuncture points. Adele looked fearful, while Gillette and the other hotshots of the Imperial Dark Tribe looked pensive. Audrey seemed to sink deep in a terrible nightmare. She was still unconscious, and her condition was getting worse. "Is it true that we don't have a solution?" Adele stroked her daughter's hair, her face worried. "Your soul has fused with hers. Can you wake her up?" Ming Hong looked bitter. At this moment, he was pocket-sized, standing on Audrey's shoulder. He shook his head. "I don't know why I can't see what's going on in her dream. I know her condition must relate to Desolate. As Desolate's getting stronger, she will become weaker and weaker. She could die eventually." The warriors of the Imperial Dark Tribe wore a desperate look when they heard him say so. How could it be? Adele shook her head continually as she couldn't believe it. Yen also has the origin. Why wasn't he affected? I can see that he's all right. It's hard to believe, yeah. Ming Hong was also suspicious, looking at Yen from a distance. At this moment, Yen was refining the energy he had absorbed to give to the ones surrounding him. Xian, He, Ming Hao, Frederick, and the warriors cultivating the 8 evil power Upanishads were sitting there, waiting for the chance that arrived once in a blue moon. Sure, Yen didn't look like he was affected by Desolate's recovery at all. It was unbelievable. Ming Hong and Adele thought that Yen wasn't different from Audrey in nature. They were both the ones who had fused with the origin. Why was Audrey unconscious while nothing had happened to Yen? It was too inexplicable. Perhaps after he's done with taking an energy, he will give us an answer. Ming Hong pondered and then said begrudgingly, in another corner of the chaotic space basin drifted a brown-red asteroid, with Huey's real body under it. The 12 snakeheads were like a massive, ferocious beast that was supporting the asteroid. The asteroid was moving in the turbulent space current. Zi Yao, Tianxia, and the others, her servants, were riding this asteroid. Zi Yao watched a space slit that slowly materialized in a distance. She was smiling, but her eyes were icy. It's good that we left timely. Otherwise, it would be a lot of trouble. At this moment, I'm afraid that no creature can live in desolate territory anymore. To recover, he has begun to butcher the energy containers he has fed for a long time. Tianxia respectfully stood by Ziyao. He was baffled when he heard that. Goddess Mother, you mean he's massacring in desolate territory? Yeah, all the warriors who had cultivated to the point they developed soul altars are dead. Ziyao nodded. While smiling, he has fed them for so many years to have fat piggies for this moment. He used the deaths of the creatures in his territory to recover his energy. From the day he was separated, he has been waiting for this day to come. Tianxia understood, clearly. He was frightened, but he didn't dare to ask more. It couldn't recover fully, or else it would have come to the sea domain of nihility. Oh, I've underestimated that Shiryan. Zi Yao smiled. She looked at a direction while mumbling, You little devil, you brought the Grace mainland here. Seems like we have to meet up again. The snakes under the massive asteroid wiggled, bringing the asteroid toward the Grace mainland in this turbulent space basin. Shiryan opened his eyes. He calmly stood up looking around. Xian, he, Ming Hao, Frederick, and the others were meditating to comprehend their power and refine the energy Shiryan had bestowed them. He faced the sky to check the light protection that covered this planet, protecting it from the terrifying impacts in this basin. It would ensure no creature on this continent got hurt. After he had digested the energy in the black hole and the acupuncture points, he had reached the peak of a mortal realm. The life energy in his body was brimming. He believed that if he had to fight against the territory ancestor realm experts, he wouldn't fall into a disadvantage. Eating up Putai, he had gained great benefits. The 8 power Upanishads Putai had cultivated for years were now his. It was extremely magical. Even though he could devour more warriors, he couldn't make their power Upanishads his powers. But Putai was special. Putai had cultivated devouring power Upanishad as well. The 8 evil power Upanishads had a mysterious connection. After Yen had swallowed them, they had become his glory. Today he had reached the peak of the immortal realm, and he already had the dark energy. He felt that he would enter the territory ancestor realm soon. His soul observed inwardly. His incipient extent was like a deep and vast universe in the ancient time where stars were twinkling dazzlingly. Except for having creatures, this incipient extent wasn't much different from many territories. He frowned, thinking about which way to go and where to relocate the Grace mainland. At this moment, Adele came to him with a glum face, asking, Please come and see Audrey. Yen walked to Audrey, whose eyes were closed and breathing was weak. It seemed that her vitality was being taken away. She appeared as though her soul flame would be extinguished soon. Ming Hong, Gillette, DeCarlos, and Azure Dragon were gathering by Audrey, their hands tied. They had tried many methods to wake Audrey, but none of them worked. Audrey was still dormant. It is harming her. The stronger it is, the weaker Audrey becomes. Despite the distance, it can still affect Audrey. As it's getting more intimidating, Audrey will be drained to death. Ming Hong looked at Yen, his eyes strange. You also have the origin. Audrey's condition is dangerous, but why are you still safe and sound? Everybody was bewildered because of this. Looking at Audrey, Yan's eyes sparkled. He knew the difference between them. Audrey was born in desolate territory. At birth, her soul had its seal. It could use the seal in her soul to affect her origin. Finally, Yen knew why Bloodthirsty had to ask Xianshan, Lao Luo, and Xian to bring a soul from another world and give it the inheritance. Bloodthirsty had foreseen things. In his time, he knew what would happen in the current time. Shi Yan wasn't affected due to Desolate's increasing strength because he didn't have its soul seal in his soul. He wasn't a soul born in desolate territory. Chapter 1499 Walk on the Road of Fusion. Chapter 1499 Walk on the Road of Fusion. Underscore. On the icy stone bed, Audrey's eyelashes shivered, her face twisting in agony. It seemed that she was being tortured in her dream. Adele felt terrible. She clutched Audrey's hand, muttering to her, "It's all right. Everything will be fine. I will think about a solution to wake you up." "It's getting worse." Ming Hong pulled a solemn face, turning to Shi Yan. "Desolate's strength is increasing, to the point that even I can feel it. Audrey's condition is getting worse. If you don't have any solution, her flames of soul will extinguish shortly." Ming Hong's eyes became gloomy. He understood clearly that when Audrey was gone, being her sole slave, he wouldn't exist anymore either. Adele, Gillette, and the others were so flustered and restless. They wanted to find a way to wake Audrey up as fast as possible. Azure Dragon frowned while mumbling, "Once Audrey's gone, Desolate will naturally get the origin she is fused with. It will get 3 clones at the time, and you'll be its next target." He turned to Shi Yan. "Let me try," Shi Yan sighed, urging his life power Upanishad. He wanted to use the life energy to shroud Audrey's soul. An ivory stream flooded Audrey, giving a tonic to her soul altar. However, in just a blink of an eye, Shi Yan knew that it couldn't work. It was Audrey's soul that was affected. The weakened soul wasn't something his life power Upanishad could recover. Hence, his method wasn't suitable. If Audrey's body were hurt, he could use vitality to heal her. The 2 precursors of the White Bone clan had been dormant because their vitality was too low, which affected their souls. However, Audrey's situation was different. Her life energy still fluctuated vigorously. It was her soul altar, especially the host soul, that had a problem. For the time being, Shi Yan didn't have any way to solve this situation. When Hero and Montesi saw him awake, they walked toward him together. The 2 precursors of the White Bone clan walked with them. Although they hadn't recovered fully, their mobility wasn't affected. The little skeleton took them to see Shi Yan. The 2 precursors of the White Bone clan had used the etiquette specialized to treat a noble person to greet and thank Shi Yan for helping them. "Thanks for your help," Dracula said sincerely. He was the little skeleton's father. At the second sky of Territory Ancestor Realm, he was as strong as Hero. Unfortunately, he would need a long time to fully recover. "You're welcome. I can see that you have a problem." Dracula had a white bone body that seemed like a crystal. Inside his crystal bones, Shi Yan could see many starlight dots twinkling, which was really mesmerizing. His eyes were like emerald gemstones. They were clear and serene, making people comforted on looking at them. He came and stooped to check Audrey. The energy from her origin is being taken by an absolute beginning creature. Everybody turned to this old man of the White Bone clan, waiting in hope. Shi Yan was moved. "You've lived for a really long time. You must have a wide knowledge. Do you know how to save her? Her soul has a part of the absolute beginning creature's origin. As it's getting stronger, it can absorb her origin's energy through the seal in her soul." Dracula said straightforwardly, "I can tell you that when the absolute beginning creature starts to merge its divided parts, there will eventually be only one thing left. It happens this way if she's strong enough, she can swallow the consciousness of the clone, or the clone will swallow her soul if she's weak. Nothing can change this. It's the absolute beginning creature's nature." Adele was almost desperate, talking in agony. "You mean either my daughter's strong enough to swallow Desolate, or Desolate will eat her and fuse with her. There's no other option?" No other option. Dracula's eyes were calm. The origin she has fused would vanish with her soul altogether. If nothing unexpected happens, she will perish and vanish from this world. The members of the Imperial Dark Tribe had their eyes dark and their faces stiff when they heard that. Of course, if you just want to keep her life, there's a method, Dracula added. What method? Sure Yen and Adele shouted at the same time. With her current condition, it's the worst situation. We can't change her fate of being fused with Desolate. Dracula suddenly turned to Sure Yen. But don't forget that you're one of Desolate. You can also swallow her. If you want, and she cooperates, you can take the origin and spare her soul. Me? Sure Yen was stunned. It's the only way, Ming Hong walked to him. This precursor is right. As things have come to this, Audrey has to give up her origin to live. Her origin will be taken by Sure Yen or Desolate. If Desolate gets it, her soul will be buried together. But if Sure Yen gets it, she will lose only her origin. Her realm, soul, and body won't be affected much. He turned to Dracula, asking him to verify. Dracula nodded. It's true. If she and Sure Yen cooperate, she will lose only her origin, a part of Desolate's consciousness. She won't lose herself. In other words, she will just discard something that doesn't belong to her. She'll still be herself. Let's do this. Ming Hong hissed, asking resolutely, Sure Yen, do it now. Take Audrey's origin. You will get 2/5 of Desolate's soul parts. As Desolate isn't complete, it can't rule the Desolate territory fully. We will have a chance. What chance? Adele and the others were puzzled. One day, Sure Yen will be strong enough to reach the territory ancestor realm. At that time, he can resist or even refine Desolate. Ming Hong pulled a dark and cold face. Only Sure Yen can do that, and only he will have a chance to counterattack. After all, he isn't bound to Desolate territory's rules. Not many people knew that Sure Yen was a soul from another universe. However, being the soul control chief, Ming Hong knew it a long time ago. Finally, Ming Hong knew the true reason why Bloodthirsty had to labor to guide a soul from another universe. Turned out that Bloodthirsty had prepared well for today. Bloodthirsty had failed that year because he was created by Desolate. He was a soul born in Desolate territory. It was the cause of his tragic consequence. To not let his heir walk on the same failed path, he had ordered Xian Shan, Xian He, and Lao Luo to find a soul from another world. Brother, are you sure? Adele still hesitated. If you want to see Audrey die, you can wait. If you miss this only chance, not only will Audrey die, but Desolate will receive one more origin. No one can estimate how strong it will be. At that time, Sure Yen will have not even the slightest chance. Ming Hong snorted. Listening to him, many warriors from Desolate territory couldn't sit still. They had finally recognized the horrible truth and began to urge Sure Yen to take action. You do it. Please, promise me that Audrey's soul will be safe. Adele said helplessly. She was the current matriarch of the Imperial Dark Tribe and also Audrey's mother. If she agreed, no one would oppose this. How to ensure that her soul will be safe and her realm won't be affected after I take her origin? Sure Yen bit his lips. He didn't hesitate anymore. Turning to Dracula, I don't know how. You need to use your soul to intrude her soul altar and contact her host soul. Let her host soul cooperate with you to extract the origin. Once you guys have extracted the origin, you have to take it before Desolate does that. You have to be very careful, reminded Dracula. Sure, Yen was nervous as he pondered for a while. Audrey was getting worse. Her soul was about to perish. As people were urging, he gazed at Audrey. Swoosh! A group of souls created by flames flew out of his pupils. Just like a lively and agile spirit, it intruded Audrey's soul from the corner of her eye. Audrey's soul altar floated above her sea of consciousness. Her tier of power, Upanishad, was like hell in the underworld. So many ghosts and brutal souls were gathered in the center of her sea of consciousness and power, Upanishad. As they saw Shuryen's co-soul, they were like mosquitoes that had smelled blood. They became savage, trying to come forward and tear Shuryen's co-soul apart. "Stop!" Ming Hong's yelling echoed around Audrey's sea of consciousness. The brutal souls and departed ghosts behaved as they were scolded. Ming Hong was the most powerful brutal soul here. He had connected with Audrey and helped her rule those sinister souls. He was the leader of the brutal souls. Under his intimidation, no soul dared to attack Shuryen. Thus, Shuryen could continue to move forward. He had passed millions of evil souls to get to the tier of power Upanishads. Audrey's incipient extent was above the tier of power Upanishads. It was a gloomy, cold, and gray world that he couldn't see through. Vaguely, a massive cauldron was moving in her incipient extent. Many absolute beginning symbols were glowing. It was the refining soul cauldron that had fused with Audrey's soul. As Shuryen's soul had appeared by the incipient extent, the soul-refining cauldron released waves of threatening energy. That attacking energy aimed at Shuryen. Then, billions of symbols flashed, turning into the ancient devil gods covering the entire sky and swarming toward Shuryen. It was the instinct of the absolute beginning divine weapon to protect its master. Shuryen in his soul form felt overwhelmed when so many evil gods flocked toward him. He changed his power, and many burning flames were conjured. Those flames seemed to have a life as they became flame spirits attacking those evil gods. At that moment, Shuryen sent a soul message that was like a jet of light crossing through the dark world. "I am Shuryen." He spoke to Audrey. Swoosh! He got a response from a place pretty far away, but it wasn't from Audrey. It was from the Power Upanishad symbol tower. Shuryen was bewildered. Chapter 1500. Thing returns to its rightful owner. Chapter 1500. Thing returns to its rightful owner, underscore on her. A massive, black cave was spinning somewhere in the sea domain of nihility where the devouring clan gathered. In the thick darkness, an imposing, majestic power Upanishad symbol tower hovered. The absolute beginning symbols on the tower were sparkling with many colors. Wisps of pure dark energy crawled on the tower to clear the soul seal Hui had left there. Devour had released its evil, cold soul consciousness to refine and erase the seal Hui had left. All of a sudden, a sincere call came from a place far away. As the enormous tower had just got rid of Huey's soul seal, it was attracted by the call. Without waiting for Devour to react, it accelerated instantly and flew away. In the blink of an eye, it had moved billions of miles. Tearing layers of space, Devour had escaped from desolate territory. He had to consume a lot of energy, and erasing Huey's soul seal on the Power Upanishad symbol tower took a big part of his energy too. Devour had just ceased to breathe when the tower had already flown away. At this moment, Devour's power hadn't recovered yet, and he didn't have the power to hold it back. He could only see the Power Upanishad symbol tower pierce through layers of space and disappear. Devour, the giant black octopus, held to call his clansmen of the devouring clan. Shortly, the two territory ancestors, Edgar and Lebit, arrived. Edgar hovered by the dark abyss, asking respectfully, "Ancestor, why are you enraged?" The Power Upanishad symbol tower escaped my control, flying to desolate territory. Devour's voice arose in the dark abyss. "If it's not Hui, it's the new master of the tower." He had contacted the tower, but Huey's soul seal had stopped him. As soon as I erased Huey's seal, I don't know why it's so coincidental that the kid called it. Damn it. "Where's he?" asked Edgar. The void outside desolate territory. Let me figure out the way to go there. Get that kid before we. Otherwise, you won't get the Power Upanishad symbol tower. The Power Upanishad symbol tower is crucial. We must get it. Yes, sir. The Power Upanishad symbol tower had pierced through layers of space, crossing billions of miles in just a blink of an eye, as if it could tear space. It had turned into a jet of starlight, flashing and then disappearing. Many warriors had seen it, feeling their souls shaken. They immediately understood that some treasure would be near them, but when they pulled themselves together to check, they got nothing. The Power Upanishad symbol tower flew all the way, breaking spaces. Shortly, it pierced into the chaotic space basin outside desolate territory. Zi Yao sat on a high, seven-colored throne on a massive asteroid. Her eyes were deep, as if they could see through the whole world. She released her soul consciousness to find Shi Yan in the turbulent space current. Sizzle! A jet of starlight zoomed over. The light flashed and then disappeared, but it could still make her soul shiver. She opened her eyes, shooting an amazing light as she was surprised. The Power Upanishad symbol tower! She screamed. She was stunned at first, but she got a hold of herself shortly after. Immediately, she used her soul to check the direction of that jet of light. Then, her true body moved, turning this asteroid into a shooting star. The shooting star moved rapidly toward the Power Upanishad symbol tower, also heading to Shi Yan's location. Grace Mainland. Adele, Ming Hao, and Xian he gathered behind the immortal realm. They were observing Shi Yan and Audrey, their faces dark and grieved. Shi Yan had escaped the soul altar, entering Audrey's head. They were waiting with hope to see her situation getting better. Unfortunately, she was still unconscious, her breath weakening. Shi Yan's body frowned as if he was facing a big trouble. It made their hearts sink further as they became tenser. Dracula, Hero, and Gay of the Whitebone clan, Montesi and Meiji of the Phantom clan were gathered, watching Shi Yan send his soul to swallow her origin. Swoosh! 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 All of a sudden, a fierce wave of energy came from a far area in this space basin, swarming the Grace mainland. Hero and Montesi changed their countenances. They sensed for a while and found it was so intimidating that it could threaten the Grace mainland. Shi Yan had asked the two of them to protect the Grace mainland. As they had agreed with him, they must ensure that the Grace mainland would be all right. Seeing that fierce energy attack, Hero was stern. I'm going there to check. Hero turned into a gold arrow, shooting out of the barrier. As soon as he came to the chaotic basin, his eyes brightened, almost choking on his own breath. Power Upanishad symbol tower! Seeing the strange situation, he pondered, then sent a message to Montesi. Retrieve the light barriers. The Power Upanishad symbol tower just came back. On the Grace mainland, Montesi was thrilled. She didn't think much, seizing the time to control her Power Upanishad in cooperation with Hero. They lifted layers of barriers on the Grace mainland. Boom! The Power Upanishad symbol tower turned into a jet of starlight. As soon as it came near the Grace mainland, it transformed back into a giant tower. Slowly, the colossal tower landed through layers of clouds in the sky, aiming at Shi Yan's head. It was so strange that the tower halted above Shi Yan's head, as if it was hesitant. What's happened? Dracula of the Whitebone clan asked. He hesitated for a while before he could get it. The Power Upanishad symbol tower has fused with Shi Yan's co-soul, and now his co-soul is in Audrey's head, which makes his aura different. Hearing him, the crowd of warriors was frightened. They all looked skeptical. The thing that had fused with the Power Upanishad symbol tower was actually Shi Yan's soul. And now, his co-soul had gone to Audrey's head. As his aura on his body was changed, the Power Upanishad symbol tower was confused about whether it should go to Shiryan's body or Audrey's head. The onlookers held their breath, watching the Power Upanishad symbol tower. Swoosh! The Power Upanishad symbol tower changed into the cluster of light, heading toward Audrey, intruding her soul altar. The people around couldn't help but scream in panic on seeing this. On Audrey's soul altar, Shiryan's soul was like a dark shadow, hovering in front of Audrey's incipient extent and calling her host soul, which was floating above the incipient extent. Audrey hadn't answered Shiryan, but the Power Upanishad symbol tower had come first. It seemed to run toward him. While Shiryan was still bewildered, the terrifying energy fluctuations of the soul refining cauldron came from the dark area in Audrey's incipient extent. Right after that, countless soul vines slithered like snakes, reaching toward him and trying to pull his soul into the soul refining cauldron. The soul refining cauldron was a divine weapon in soul class, and it had fused with Audrey's origin. As Shiryan intruded this area, the soul refining cauldron had instinctively considered him an enemy. Without Audrey's control, the soul refining cauldron began to attack Shiryan. It was almost unavoidable. It was him who courted death as he dared to use his soul to attack another expert in her soul altar, who even had the soul of an absolute beginning creature. At the moment, the terrifying aura of the soul refining cauldron was slowly reaching toward him. Shiryan was frightened. He continually sent messages to Audrey, but she hadn't answered yet. Seeing the dangerous situation, he didn't dare to linger and decided to retreat. However, at this moment, a powerful light that could tear the dim-lit world in this place came dazzlingly. The massive Power Upanishad symbol tower suddenly came from the world outside, becoming the armor that could protect everything, shrouding his soul immediately. The soul refining cauldron couldn't pierce through this thick protection, so it couldn't attack Shiryan's soul. Sure, Yen suddenly had a feeling of blood connecting. It was like he had finally and officially fused with the Power Upanishad symbol tower at this moment. Previously, his fusion wasn't complete because the Power Upanishad symbol tower still had Huey's soul seal, which was like a contaminant. Before he could clean that contaminant, he couldn't fuse with it fully. Today, that soul seal was cleared by Devour. Shiryan had lost the Power Upanishad symbol tower for a short time. Unexpectedly, it was his luck amidst a misfortune. Devour had cleaned the tower for him, and today he had finally fused with the Power Upanishad symbol tower. With his soul and aura, no one could easily snatch the Power Upanishad symbol tower from him, unless he was gone and his soul seal vanished from this world. No one could dream to take the Power Upanishad symbol tower from his hands. Sure, Yen suddenly understood many things. As the Power Upanishad symbol tower was protecting him, he wasn't afraid of the soul refining cauldron anymore. He focused on calling Audrey. I am Shiryan. I am Shiryan. It's me. He called her continually, trying to contact Audrey to receive her help. After an unknown time, the soul refining cauldron stopped attacking him. As Shiryan was still perplexed, Audrey had finally answered him. Shiryan, my condition isn't really good. It's getting stronger. It can use the origin to block my soul. It's consuming me. I can't hold on for a long time. Audrey's messages were interrupted. She was being weakened faster. I'm here to help you, but to do that I may harm you. I need you to cooperate with me. Let me take your origin. Otherwise, your soul will be consumed until you die. Sure, Yen didn't dare to linger, trying to explain the situation briefly. It's the only method. The origins are gathered and fused. Your soul has its soul seal. It can use that seal to find you through the origin to kill you. Can you tell me why you aren't affected? Audrey asked all of a sudden. My soul doesn't belong to desolate territory. Shiryen pondered and then answered. Audrey pondered for a while, then said, "Okay, I'll cooperate with you." Chapter 1501, The Absolute Beginning Gateway. Chapter 1501, The Absolute Beginning Gateway, _. The origin fusion was easier than Shiryen had imagined. After Audrey had agreed to cooperate with him, the whole process was really smooth. Previously, he didn't know the fusion method and thought that it would require some conditions. However, when she sent him the message to tell him that she would cooperate with him, he immediately knew what to do. A powerful call came from deep in his soul. It felt like he wanted to retrieve his missing limbs as his soul emitted fierce vibes. The energy rippled from him had bright colors, as they were filled with brilliant outer space streamers. The magnificent light then filled Audrey's sea of consciousness. It was like so many hands had clutched Audrey's origin in her host's soul and pulled it out to absorb it. It was the gathering instinct between the origins. Before Shiryen had come here, Audrey's host soul was affected by Desolate's will. Crossing endless spaces, Desolate had used the soul seal to torture her, drowning her in blurry dreams, to the point where she couldn't tell whether they were true or illusory. At the same time, Desolate sent her similar calls. It was exactly the same as Shiryen's call. Feeling Shiryen's soul call, Audrey was hesitant. She was afraid that it was Desolate's trick to trap her and make her proactively give her origin away. Then, she decided to ask Shiryen something that only they knew, who gave her the correct answers. That way, she had confirmed the source of the soul calls. They were from Shiryen. With that, Audrey didn't hesitate anymore. Wisps of brilliant 5-colored soul light flew out of her host's soul. As soon as they left her, they headed fast toward Shiryen's soul magnetic field. As soon as the soul lights came to that vibrating soul magnetic field, they turned into the 5-colored flames, which were actually the heaven flames of the origin. Then, the flames danced and blended with Shiryen's soul. Shiryen had a feeling of perceiving knowledge and memories comprising of many scenes and images. After fusing with each flame, he saw something from the magical but ancient memory. He vaguely saw some old, resentful stories that took place in the absolute beginning era. It was Desolate's memory. Unfortunately, it was still incomplete after this fusion. Taking Audrey's origin, Shiryen got 2/5 of Desolate's soul, memory, and knowledge. It was a little less than expected. Absolute beginning, destination of life journey. Absolute beginning, gateway, key. Pieces of scrambled, inexplicable memories flowed into his head. Getting the memory, he suddenly realized that the Power Upanishad symbol tower was the key of the absolute beginning gateway something. He could use this massive tower to get through that gateway. However, he wasn't so sure what the so-called absolute beginning gateway was and what was behind it. He continued to extract the origin, collecting memory and knowledge. The Power Upanishad symbol tower hovered above his soul, protecting him from any evil souls. Shortly, Audrey's origin was fused with his. The soul refining cauldron sank into Audrey's incipient extent. Since Audrey didn't have the origin, it didn't attack Shiryen anymore. Without the origin, Desolate couldn't affect Audrey through space, and she slowly got a hold of herself. She pulled the soul refining cauldron to stop it from attacking Shiryen, which could affect his fusion progress. In her sea of consciousness, Shiryen was blazing like the sun, emitting dazzling rays. Rays of light illuminated her sea of consciousness, giving her a marvelous feeling of his fusion. Audrey didn't know why she felt so relaxed and comfortable. She wasn't dispirited because of her lost origin. Quite the contrary, she felt that her burden was gone. Her soul and spirit were sublimated, and her body now had magical light twirling in it. Xian, he and Ming Hao had worried about Audrey as they thought her soul would vanish. At this moment, Audrey's body emitted the thick and vigorous life energy fluctuation. Different colorful light beams moved on her as though they were cleaning the contaminants and dregs in her body so that she could sublimate her life. Adele's eyes brightened and her glum face was lit up. Seems like my little girl's all right. It's bad that she lost the origin. I'm worried if she can obtain good things like that later. She felt regretful because she thought that her daughter's attainment was due to the origin of the God-blessed mainland. Today, her origin had been fused with Shi Yan's soul, which had saved her, but she had lost her origin. It could affect her cultivation. No, it's not bad that she has lost the origin. Dracula of the Whitebone clan shook his head, his eyes bright with surprise. To the warriors with the origin, it could be good, but it's also a burden for their growth. This child lost the origin, but her soul and spirit have sublimated. She has experienced the marvel of the absolute beginning soul. I can say she obtained luck in her misfortune. Ming Hao looked suspicious, asking, "You mean her realm wasn't affected?" It looks like she has advanced further. The origin in her soul was a rope that tied her down. She has pulled it off today, so she can soar up now. Dracula nodded, eyeing Audrey and talking sincerely. Her realm has progressed, and her power Upanishad has become more profound. As long as she accumulates enough God power, she can leap further. Audrey had just entered the immortal realm. According to Dracula, if she advanced further, would she enter the second sky of immortal realm directly? How could it be? Let alone Ming Hao, Hero Montesi, and the others were also surprised. They thought that it was almost unbelievable. It's hard to explain, Dracula turned to them, speaking. To some warriors, the souls of the absolute beginning creatures could be their motivation. For example, Shi Yan has a tough mind, and he's also extreme and bold. Such warriors wouldn't be bound to anything. He owns what he got. No one can affect him. He turned to observe Audrey. But there are also a kind of warriors who will find the soul of the absolute beginning creatures a burden in their hearts. They would doubt that they aren't themselves. Once this kind of doubt emerges, they won't have the confidence, and it will affect their cultivation, binding themselves. So you mean to Audrey the origin of the God-blessed mainland is a rope that tied her down? Ming Hao was surprised. Dracula nodded. Everybody looked pensive as they quietly assessed Audrey. Her breath had normalized under the people's gaze. Slowly, her soul magnetic field expanded. Layers of marvelous light rippled from her, making her look like she had obtained a new life. It was strange but magical, as if she was born again. Right at this moment, Shi Yan's co-soul retreated from the corner of her eye, returning to his brain. Audrey also opened her eyes. Deep in her pupils, people could see so many souls moving, creating a magical soul formation. That soul formation was much similar to the one they used to see on the soul refining cauldron. Finally, she had become the cauldron's rightful owner. It feels like someone has removed the stone from my heart. It's really comfortable. She beamed faintly, as pretty as a blooming flower. Her bearings had come more outstanding and mesmerizing. The ones who had befriended her had their eyes brightened, as if it was the first time they saw her. "My dear, are you okay?" asked Adele. "Yes, Mom. I'm okay. I'm really good," Audrey confirmed, then looked at Shi Yan in his eyes, looking shy as she lowered her head. "He did well in my brain. I didn't suffer any pain. He was gentle and natural." Hearing her, people turned awkward as they suddenly recalled the marvelous features when the souls blended together, their faces ambiguous. Mei Ji bit her lips, glaring at Shi Yan as she thought that Shi Yan had done something dubious in Audrey's head. Boom! 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 All of a sudden, the beautiful light protections outside the planet were hit by waves of shooting meteors. Sparks and halos bloomed magnificently. Montesi and Hero lifted their heads to look at the sky. Their faces darkened as they screamed, "Someone's attacking us!" "Who?" Mei Ji gritted her teeth, her eyes flaring coldly. Who dares to attack in the chaotic space basin? It will be big trouble if we battle here. I know who, Shiryen intervened, his eyes serene. Facing the void, he said, it's Xiao. Her real body used to stay in the chaotic space basin. After recognizing that Desolate has awakened, she got back here. She knows this place better than us. Why is she here? Hero discolored. Is this her territory? Impossible. Dracula shook his head. This place isn't a territory. It doesn't have heaven and earth energy. It's not suitable for any creature to stay and cultivate in. It's not a territory. People then exhaled in relief. Fighting with someone in his or her territory was the most stupid thing to do. If this place were Ziyao's territory, they would never escape. Even the warriors like Hero or Montesi, in the territory of the same level expert, would be killed eventually. In one's territory, one's own magical world, he was the sole god that could bend the rules of nature. The territory's owner could do whatever pleased him there. Let me see why she comes here. Shiryen stood up. After one step, he soared up into the sky, piercing through the Grace mainland's light protection. He sat on the misty clouds outside the Grace mainland, looking at a massive asteroid afar. He shouted at the 12-headed giant snake, "Why are you here?" "Little devil, did you forget your old partner when you got a new one?" Ziya smiled naturally, seating herself on a brilliant throne. She suddenly moved toward him. After the first glance, Ziya's eyes brightened. "Not bad. You got another soul clone of it. It's unexpected. Well then, unless it kills you and refines you to take your soul, it will never recover fully." Chapter 1502. Time has changed. Chapter 1502. Time has changed. __. What do you want? Hovering in midair, Shiryen looked calm. Today he had reached the peak of a mortal realm. After fusing with another origin, he felt his soul had transformed again, and he could enter the territory ancestor realm soon. Now he wasn't afraid of Ziyao. He was confident that he could leave as he wished. At that moment, shadows appeared by him. They were Hero and Montesi, the true experts of the White Bone and Phantom clan, the peerless existences in this vast universe. Also, they were 2 of the 10 great territory ancestors. In these given circumstances, Ziyao slightly changed her face. She understood clearly that with Hero and Montesi here, she couldn't threaten Shiryen. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. More shadows emerged. They were Dracula and his wife, Meiji and Gay. They were also territory ancestor realm experts. Ziyao's eyes changed, feeling a bit frightened by now. Looking at Shiryen, she felt a headache developing. Since when could he gather so many experts like this? She was surprised. She knew the characters at the territory ancestor realm with the power of the dark energy could harm her. The territory ancestor realm experts were the peak existences of this epoch. Their life form and power Upanishads had reached an extreme level. In some marvelous aspects, they weren't as good as the absolute beginning creatures. However, in a real fight, they weren't too bad. "We can kill her." All of a sudden, Hero hissed, his face filled with murderous aura. Montesi's cute face radiated amazingly as she sniggered. The absolute beginning creatures have many powers, and their entire bodies are treasures. If we can kill her, it'll be good for all of us. Ziyao's face went stiff. Looking at Hero and Montesi, she suddenly recognized that her background wasn't as strong as Devour's. The Devouring clan had Edgar and Lebit as the territory ancestor realm. In the sea domain of nihility, it was one of the 7 great clans. The Devouring clan had developed to an extreme level and was a great support to Devour. However, she only had Tianxia. None of her servants had reached the territory ancestor realm. In other words, they couldn't help her much. In the battle between the territory ancestors, they couldn't join to help her. Looking at Hero, Montesi, Gay, Meiji, Dracula, and his wife, Ziyao's eyes turned dark. She finally admitted that they could threaten her. She pondered for seconds, then laughed. Her powerful, attractive power rippled, attacking all the warriors' minds. As she was laughing, her true body wiggled, drawing the asteroid. Ziyao waved, and Cecilia appeared by her. This little girl has a deep love like the sea for you. You don't want to see her die tragically, do you? You see, she has my mark on her head. She guided more warriors over. Cecilia's teacher Lena, Gulian and Guling of the Thousand Fantasy Sect, and some other faces familiar to Shiryan, Adele, and Ming Hao. They were all dragged here with the green snake mark on their foreheads. Yao had imprinted her soul seal to bind their souls. With a thought of hers, Cecilia and the others couldn't even wiggle before their souls perished. She got many people behind her who had a good relationship with Xian, He, Ming Hao, Adele, and De Carlos. They all wore a glum, reluctant, and desperate face. Yen turned to see Cecilia. Cecilia stooped, having a bitter and sorrowful face. She didn't talk, just standing in bafflement. Yen suddenly felt sour. Besides, although this chaotic space basin isn't my territory, I can change the surroundings a bit. Ziyao sneered and then flung her hands, her moves quite gentle. Then, people saw a darkness fall as outer space streamers came with blasts of wind and snowstorm. I've lived here for hundreds of thousands of years. I'm familiar with this place. I have even refined some areas. If you fight me here, I don't think you will gain the upper hand. Looking at the strange commotion, Hero and Montesi felt heavy-hearted. They didn't sound really confident. If we fight, both sides can't retreat unharmed. We should stop. Shiryan kept a cold face and snorted. And if you know that already, why are you here? You can't kill me. Why do you need to stand in my way? Do you have the Power Upanishad symbol tower? Yao curled her lips. In my hands. Yen answered. As the matter was confirmed, Yao felt indignant. She loathed Devour because if he hadn't cleared her soul seal, she would have had the Power Upanishad symbol tower already. Sure, Yen would have never had a chance to touch it. But she knew it was no use to hate the other. Do you know the secrets of the Power Upanishad symbol tower too? She asked all of a sudden. It's the key to open the absolute beginning gateway, Shiryan said at his own convenience. Hearing him, Ziyao was shaken hard. She couldn't help but scream, You! How could you know that? Oh right, you got parts of his soul. Damn it. At this moment, the 12 snakeheads swayed as if they were all frantic. If you dare to fight, we will try to kill the absolute beginning creature too. Yen suddenly shouted. His shout was like a thunderclap that awoke Xiao. She didn't dare to ignite the fight, just struggling hard at her spot. If you stop me here, we won't stop until someone dies. Yen was extremely bold. Right after that, he drove the Grace mainland, tearing this area of strong blasts and heading to the territory entrance. Goddess Mother. Tianxia watched Yan's group leaving and hissed to remind her. However, Yao didn't order to attack. Yan's side is different. He has several territory ancestors who can actually hurt me. Once we fight, even though I can win because I'm more familiar with this place, we would be damaged badly. It could be even worse than that year. So we shouldn't be impetuous. After Yan's team had left for a long time, Ziyao quieted down. While pondering, she said, I must recover fast. If I can't refine Desolate's clones to do that, I have to find another method. We need to go to the sea domain of Nihility. As long as I'm fully recovered, I can defeat both Devour and Desolate. It's now a competition to see who recovers first. I understood, regarded Tianxia. Yao looked at him and felt a little disappointed. She had trained Tianxia herself. However, due to Desolate Territory's condition, Tianxia's realm was held down. He hadn't reached the Territory Ancestor realm yet. He couldn't help her in the future battle if he didn't reach the Territory Ancestor realm. She calculated and worried about the upcoming war. The Grace mainland quietly flew through the chaotic space basin. Without Xiao troubling them, the planet was well protected by Hero and Montesi. The chaotic space basin couldn't affect the Grace mainland, so the creatures on the continent could still cultivate with the heaven and earth energy there. Everything was going smoothly and ideally. Shi Yan also quieted down. Before they reached the territory entrance, he could have a short course of peaceful time. The Yang family had accommodated the warriors from the other stars to the islands in the endless sea on the Grace mainland. The Shang family, the Wu family, the Xiao family, and the Gu God sect stayed there for the time being. They were all the characters at the overlord level. Since they didn't have much time, they couldn't bring all of the members of their forces. They could only bring their family and teleport with Shi Yan to the Grace mainland. On an island, the Shang family, Wu family, Xiao family, Gu God sect, and Yushan from the fiery rain star area were gathering, watching the immense sky without a sun, moon, or any star. And Leah, Yushan, and Shangqin looked dispirited, sighing. Sure, Yan, let us lodge together. What does he want to tell us, after all? Sha Zhao was playing with his Gu insects as he shook his head begrudgingly. We're away from our home, and we don't know our future. This feeling. Sai, I don't feel well. So, our homeland was slaughtered. And Leah still had hope. We will never go back there again. If Shi Yan didn't lie to us, Desolate Territory is now not suitable for us to live anymore. If you go back there, Desolate will kill you, Yushan said. At the moment they were talking, Shi Yan appeared between them like a ghost. Looking at Yushan, Shangchen, Shang Yingyu, and the other faces he knew, Shi Yan felt a little lost. That year, when the Agate Star area was invaded and attacked by the God Clan, those people didn't hesitate to give him a helping hand. Shi Yan always remembered their favors. Thus, when the doomsday came over Desolate Territory, he had exerted a lot of efforts to gather them. However, on listening to their conversation, Shi Yan knew they hadn't lost hope yet. I'm going to show you something. It's what I saw when I got Audrey's origin. This is how Desolate looks today. Star energy churned and created scenes above Shi Yan's head. In those scenes, so many planets Shangqin and the others knew had their warriors exploded, their soul altars shattering like fireworks wherever the ancient continent passed by. The warriors, they knew, didn't have a chance to resist. They were cleared instantly. The 3-star areas had merged together to create the real Desolate Territory. However, today the liveliest life stars in Desolate Territory had their creatures living in misery, while warriors were destroyed everywhere. Anyway, the ordinary human beings weren't affected in this kulpa. Shangqin had witnessed the life stars they used to visit and the warriors they knew explode with blasting soul altars. They paled at this sight, breathing heavily. Now they had recognized that if they didn't leave, the victims of that terrifying genocide would have been them. They didn't feel indignant anymore. They now trusted Shi Yan entirely, as they knew that he had forcefully drawn them away from a deathly fate. Shi Yan, thank you, we understand now. We finally understand. And Leah sounded dispirited. Everybody thanked Shi Yan for rescuing them. The elders of the Wu family and the Bai family now knew that it was their best move to send their warriors to the Agate Star area that year. If they hadn't helped him that year, they would have perished at this moment, without having had chance to survive. Chapter 1503, Great Seal Technique. Chapter 1503, Great Seal Technique, _. Reincarnation Island, Kiara Sea, Endless Sea. It was the island the Xia family stayed and cultivated on. Yang Tian Emperor had arranged the Xia family to stay on that island. There were several exquisite and comfortable bamboo houses on the shore of Reincarnation Island, and Xia Xianyan was cultivating precisely there. The warriors of the Fighting League also lived on Reincarnation Island. Feng Han, Feng Yan, and Qin Zhe had considered the island their new homes. They all knew of the horrible massacre in desolate territory, and it would be really hard to go back there. Thus, they had to adapt to the strange and new conditions here. A silhouette landed on the Reincarnation Island, walking directly to where Xia Xianyan was cultivating. He was De Carlos, the Grand Master of Space Power Upanishad. Xia Xianyan wore an elegant, long, green dress, facing the deep blue sea. Seeing De Carlos, she was quite surprised. "Are you here to see me?" "For what, sir?" De Carlos sighed inwardly as he took out a thin, small book. The cover of the book had many complicated, twisted space lines with clear space energy emitting from it. "You should read and comprehend the Space Power Upanishad in this book. Your own Power Upanishad and the Space Power Upanishad can cast the Great Seal technique my teacher had comprehended that year." He told her his teacher's wish, then said, "I don't dream to be your teacher, because I know I'm not qualified, but I'm begging you to cultivate the Space Power Upanishad so that you can use this inheritance from my master," he said solemnly. Xia Xianyan was surprised. When De Carlos gifted her a huge amount of God power, she was skeptical about his motivation. She thought he had some plan she didn't have a clue about. She was alert, as she thought he had some rebellious scheme. And now, she finally got it, making her respect him more. To fulfill his teacher's wish, De Carlos had given away such a treasure, which surprised Xia Xianyan a lot. She raised her hands as she wanted to receive the thin book. Swoosh! But at that moment, a petite figure suddenly appeared. She smiled and grabbed the book. When she held it, her face looked strange. "That great something sounds interesting to me. Let's see if the Space Power Upanishad is worth cultivating." She was Montesi, the territory ancestor realm experts of the Phantom Clan. At this moment, she was the key person who protected the Grace mainland from the dangers in the chaotic space basin. While hovering in the clouds of the Grace mainland, she noticed a man approached Xia Xianyan. As she had considered Xia Xianyan her only disciple, she planned to take to Shuryen about this. She had decided to impart Xia Xianyan her time power Upanishad inheritance. She saw De Carlos give Xia Xianyan a thin book, asking her to cultivate Space Power Upanishad, which rang alarm bells for her immediately. Xia Xianyan had cultivated Time Power Upanishad to a high realm, but it wasn't a good move to cultivate Space Power Upanishad now. Montesi thought that it would affect Xia Xianyan's development. Thus, she couldn't help but come and interfere in this. Fusing time and space to create the sea of time and space, freezing both time and space. Montesi wore a disdainful face, but after reading the little book for a while, she was shaken inwardly as her eyes brightened. "It's an interesting idea. Oh wow, there's even a clear sequence. Not bad, not bad. It's possible indeed." Then she said, "Little girl, you don't need to cultivate the Space Power Upanishad. Mixing power Upanishads will affect your progress, as you've cultivating only one power Upanishad. You're gold, or that hasn't been refined. After I've shaped you, you will achieve excellent attainments." Montesi held the book, turning to De Carlos and talking faintly. "As for this Great Seal technique, I will talk to Shuryen to see if he's interested in trying it out with me." De Carlos' face froze. Montesi was at the second sky of territory ancestor realm. She was the peerless existence in the sea domain of nihility. How could De Carlos rebel against her? What did he have to fight with her? He looked sorrowful, standing baffled as he didn't know what or how to retort. He could only sigh. "You come here. Montesi twisted a tuft of her hair around her finger, sending Shi Yan a message. Not far from them, Shi Yan was explaining the current situation to Shang Qin, Yu Shan, and the others. He received the message, so he comforted the group of warriors and left for the Reincarnation Island. Precursor Montesi, why did you call me here? Shi Yan came, then walked to Xia Xianyan and beamed. Oh, I got it. You come here to ask for my girl. Haha, since I've known you cultivate time power Upanishad, I wanted to ask you to take her as your disciple. Seems like you have the same idea, don't you? Xianyan, Precursor Montesi, is a peerless expert in time power Upanishad. It's very good for you to follow her. Shi Yan said with a stern face. In this vast universe, only she has cultivated the time power Upanishad to the territory ancestor realm. You shouldn't let this chance slip away no matter what. Xia Xianyan was moved, her eyes turning bright. Seconds later, she smiled while bowing to the other. I wonder if I have this fortune, Precursor. Ah ha ha. Montesi laughed cheerily. It's hard for you to find a master teaching time power Upanishad, and it's the same for me to find a good disciple. From the moment I saw you, I had made up my mind. Even if this kid Shi Yan didn't want it, and I had to steal you, I would have done that for sure. Hearing her, Xia Xianyan smiled sweetly. So, teacher agrees to accept me? Of course, I agree. Montesi was happy. She handed Shi Yan the thin book. Look, this technique's really interesting, using the space and time power Upanishad to seal space and stop time. It's an absolute seal. According to the author, if the experts cultivating space and time power Upanishads cooperate, the seal can confine an entire territory. It's similar to the permanent icy seal. Shi Yan was surprised. He received the book and studied it carefully. De Carlos and Ming Hao's teacher was a legendary expert. He used to be a grandmaster in space power Upanishad, reaching a remarkable peak. He had fought against Bloodthirsty and been defeated. Afterward, the corrosion power Upanishad had eroded him to death. After his defeat, he had spent the short remaining course of his life in seeking a way to deal with Bloodthirsty. The technique in this thin book was a fatal attack he had created. It required fusing the space and time power Upanishad to cast the great seal that could seal everything, be it space or a speck of dust. According to him, the expert had to use space power Upanishad to create a small space to confine the target and then seal that space completely. The space confinement could hold the creature's body, but it couldn't stop the soul. In other words, a creature with intellect could use the soul energy, which meant it could use the dark energy to crush that space. However, if the expert sealed even time during this process, when time stopped, the creature's thoughts and soul were fixed. The soul would be paused in a specific moment, so that confined creature couldn't think or use soul energy. Space would confine the body and time would pause the thoughts. When the two power Upanishads were used at the same time, together they could lock both the body and the soul of the target, which would be a true seal. The target wouldn't be able to use the body's energy, and his instinctive reaction wouldn't be able to tear the confining space. At the same time, his soul wouldn't be able to think to urge the power Upanishad or the dark energy to shatter his confinement. He would be imprisoned in a fixed time and space. Unless someone helped him, the target would never wake up. Theoretically, if the experts were strong enough to cast this great seal, they could confine not only some creatures, but also the entire territory with planets and gases. Although your teacher is gone, the technique he had invented is really fierce. Shi Yan studied the book, and his face changed. It's lucky that your teacher didn't cultivate time power Upanishad. Otherwise, once he could cast that great seal, even if Bloodthirsty hadn't been killed by the God Clan, your teacher would have been able to seal him entirely. You should learn the technique. Perhaps we will need it later. Anyway, you don't need to cultivate the two power Upanishads at the same time, as the two experts cultivating the two specific power Upanishads could join hands to create the same effects. Montesi smiled gently and tiptoed to pat Sher Yan's shoulder. Don't worry, I'll impart Yen the power Upanishad. Later on, you guys can join hand to seal anyone you hate. How does that sound? She wouldn't take that book, as she thought that it would be better to let Sher Yan keep it, in case Yen was moved and she wanted to cultivate Space Power Upanishad, which would slow her progress in learning the Time Power Upanishad. Follow me, we should find a place to talk. Montesi lovingly hooked Yan's arm, bringing her and surfing above the sea with a bright and wide smile. They looked like a little sister clutching on her big sister, with her petite figure of a little girl. She didn't look like a teacher at all. You should keep this small book and seek for your disciple to cultivate the Space Power Upanishad. The sea domain of nihility is really vast. You will get more chances. Waiting for Montesi to leave, Sher Yan tucked the thin book into DeCarlo's hand. Yen and I are different. It's late for her to cultivate another power Upanishad. DeCarlos forced a smile. He nodded, then turned away and left. Sher Yan frowned, still thinking about the Great Seal using both space and time power Upanishads. He understood that this technique created by DeCarlo's teacher was really terrifying. He wanted to try to see if it could work out. If it worked, this absolute seal would be very useful and could even change the world. Chapter 1504, The Path Ahead. Chapter 1504, The Path Ahead, The chaotic space basin was filled with bright and colorful space streamers. A blue planet was rolling towards the territory entrance. On the vast, endless sea, many small islands that were like sand grains were scattered in every corner. Today, warriors from different races gathered on those islands. The other areas on this continent stayed the same. Ordinary human beings were scared when the world changed. However, after they figured out that no harm was done to their lives, they continued to live in peace. Only the Endless, with many crowds of warriors from other star areas, had become the most lively and bustling area. Behind the mountain range on a mortal island, Hero, Montesi, Dracula, and other experts gathered by Sher Yan. Hero invited. The sea domain of nihility is very spectacular. It's a chaotic, distorted place that normal life stars can't survive in. The magnetic field there will draw Earth and heaven energy on the life stars away. After we get through the territory entrance, I suggest that we should move this planet to a natural territory. Our Whitebone clan has many natural territories. If you don't mind, I dash. Well, as your Whitebone clan has natural territories, you think our Phantom clan doesn't have any? Sher Yan and Meiji of my clan are together. He can be deemed as half of a member. Why would he go to the Whitebone clan's natural territories? Montesi rolled her eyes and interrupted Hero. Then she turned to Sher Yan and beamed like a flower. I can manage and give you a natural territory. You will be the master of a territory. What do you think? Xian He, Ming Hao, Frederick, Yang Tian Emperor, Fu Wei, and Blood Devil were here as they were characters that could affect Sher Yan's decision on Grace Mainland. How do you categorize the territories? Xian, he intervened. Gay explained with ease. Of course, we have categorized the territories. The territories include refined ones and natural ones. Normally, the conditions of the refined territories are extreme. For example, after a warrior cultivates fire power Upanishad to the territory ancestor realm, he can create a territory. However, this sort of territory has only one attribute. It will be filled with fire and scorching lava. Such a place is only suitable for warriors cultivating fire power Upanishad. The warriors at territory ancestor realm could refine and ascend their incipient extents to territories. The territories' attributes were according to the power Upanishads that the experts had cultivated. If the expert had only one power Upanishad, his territory had only one attribute. Normally, this kind of territories isn't suitable for low-level creatures. Also, they aren't open to the world outside. Gay looked at Hero and Dracula. Seeing them nod to him, indicating that he should explain more, he continued, "This kind of territory has a master. Staying in a territory like that means that the master can control your life. Thus, not many people dare to cultivate in someone else's territory unless they are subjected to the territory master." Listening to him, Xian, He, and Ming Hao looked at each other and nodded as they understood. "That's not true." Shi Yan narrowed his eyes and rubbed his chin as his suspicion rose. Desolate territory is a refined territory, right? However, it doesn't have only one attribute. Many attributes like lightning and thunder, ice, flame, even death and darkness can be cultivated there. It's different from what you just said. At this moment, Hero of the White Bone clan smiled and intervened. Among so many territories in this vast universe, desolate territory is an exception. I'm sure that none of the refined territories I know are as strange and magical as desolate territory. Then Hero looked at the sky above his head as a brilliant gold sea emerged. Slowly, it became a blurry sea of gold light. Inside the thick gold atmosphere, several metal planets were moving and releasing cold aura of metals. It was a metal territory. Take my territory, for example. It's suitable to only warriors with the metal power Upanishad. Of course, only low-realm warriors could benefit in there. Warriors at original God realm and above will be affected by my understanding of metal power Upanishad if they cultivate in my territory. It will become a restriction to them. Oh. Hero pointed at the metal territory and explained further. Most of the other territories look like mine. With different power Upanishads, the territories will look a little different. However, none of them could reach a magical level like desolate territory. Pausing for a while, Hero continued. Because desolate is an absolute beginning creature, it knows so many mysterious and marvelous things. Also, perhaps it's related to the divine weapons it has. I heard that desolate's divine weapons are related to the heavenly creation. It's also the reason why other absolute beginning creatures have aimed at desolate. The absolute beginning divine weapons that are related to heavenly creation? Shi Yan's face showed his fear. He thought and then said, "So desolate territory is an alien among refined territories? Except for it, no territory looks like that?" Hero, De Carlos, and Montesi nodded. "How about the natural territories?" asked Shi Yan. It's easy to explain this. The natural territories are created by nature. Normally, the earth and heaven energy in these territories aren't as thick as energy in refined ones. Even the conditions there can be a little harsher. The warriors with different power Upanishads can live and grow there. Montesi smiled, her petite face beautiful. "You will know more detail when we get there." "All right, I will pick the best territory out of the natural territories that our Phantom Clan has managed. If you agree, when we get through the territory entrance, I will create the passage. What do you think?" Everybody turned to Shi Yan. After so many incidents, Shi Yan had become the real owner of this continent. Only his decision was valued. If he agreed, the others couldn't interfere. Is it true that Grace Mainland can exist in the sea domain of nihility? Shi Yan hesitated. The sea domain of nihility is chaotic and twisted with evil magnetic fields. Once a normal planet gets in those twisted magnetic fields, it will be torn into pieces. No one knows the causes, but it's true. The 7 great clans have tested it. We sent a normal life star there and saw it shattered shortly afterward. Hero advised. He didn't want Shi Yan to try because they had tested this 100 times. "So, I have to choose a territory of your White Bone clan or a Phantom clan." Shi Yan forced a smile. "There's no other option around," Hero and Montesi said at the same time. "Then, we should choose the one that is close to both clans." Please arrange it for me." He glanced at Meiji and saw her beautiful eyes begging, so he added, "Yeah, the one that belongs to the Phantom Clan." Meiji's eyes looked happy. Montesi also smiled. Hiro seemed to have foreseen that. He nodded and said nothing, pulling Montesi aside to discuss further. "I wonder what it will be when we come to a strange land. Sigh, I never thought that I would have to leave my home one day and live in a foreign land," sighed Blood Devil. "Those territories all have entrances to the sea domain of nihility. Normally, a territory is a suitable place for ordinary human beings and low-realm warriors to stay and cultivate. After the warriors reach a certain level, they can go to the sea domain of nihility. The sea domain of nihility is the center of all territories. Although the energy there is bizarre and distorted, it also hides a lot of unknown, mysterious marvels. It's a much more suitable place for high-realm warriors to explore and take adventures to train." Emperor Sea Shark suddenly talked after being silent for the entire time. He looked at Ming Hao and Xian He and said, "You can settle this planet in the Phantom Clan's territory. The warriors at your level can go to the sea domain of nihility through the territory and trances to develop yourself in a bigger arena. Your grandchildren and subordinates can stay to cultivate on this planet." While they were staying idle, Emperor Sea Shark and Shenren were like outsiders that didn't mingle with surrounding warriors. As they were about to reach the territory entrance today, he finally talked to Shuryen. Looking pensive for a while, he said, "Shuryen, this continent has thick earth and heaven energy. It's really good for low-realm warriors to cultivate in, especially the sea area." He watched the endless sea behind him. This seabed also has members of the Sea Clan. Their realms are too low, though. "If you don't mind, before you enter the Phantom Clan's territory, please give me 15 minutes. I want to bring my fellow people on the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation to live on the seabed of the Endless Sea. Don't worry, I will control them well. I won't let them affect the Sea Clan members under the sea." If he said that, of course, he had calculated it, since he had helped Shuryen by attacking Neptune and Feral under the Sea of Annihilation. He had offended the 5 clans, which had troubled his clan a lot. He felt sorry for his fellows, as the 5 clans had aimed at them all the time. On Grace mainland, he had observed for a long time and found that the earth and heaven energy in this area was really thick. The seabed of the Endless Sea was really suitable for warriors of the Sea Clan. It was even better than the Sea of Annihilation. He was moved, and he had tried to find a chance to talk to Shuryen. "I invited you to desolate territory this time to repay your favor. It's unexpected that Desolate awakened earlier, so we have to leave. I'm really sorry about this. Of course, I support you. Moreover, I would like to request for your care to the Sea Clan members in the Endless Sea. Please help them improve their realms," said Shuryen. Emperor Sea Shark looked happy as he smiled. "Thank you. There's something I need to tell you." Dracula pulled Shuryen aside, his face stern. He was the oldest man in the Whitebone clan. Because Shuryen had revived him, he was thankful. He pulled Shuryen and looked him in the eyes, lowering his voice. "I've paid attention, and I saw a blood mark on the glabella of the warriors you bestowed energy to. Is it true?" Shuryen was surprised. "Yes. What about that mark?" "This seal belongs to you, but did you create it yourself?" asked Dracula. "No." Shuryen shook his head. Dracula changed his visage and said seriously, "It's troublesome then." Chapter 1505 Bloodthirsty's Last Words. Chapter 1505 Bloodthirsty's Last Words. How troublesome. Shuryen was startled as he smelt the seriousness in Dracula's voice. Dracula didn't answer him right away. He turned to Xian, He and Frederick, and then to Yang Tian Emperor, Bloodthirsty and Phelan. Those people had a clear mark on their foreheads. It was just a small mark, but it separated the warriors of the Bloodthirsty force and the others. Many years ago, Bloodthirsty, who had received his 8 evil power Upanishads, gave his followers the mark of blood clouds on their foreheads. Only the Bloodthirsty Forces members had this mark as if it was the crest of the 8 great branches. Was it a problem? Shi Yan became nervous. We should talk somewhere else. This place isn't convenient. Dracula pondered for a while, leaped up and moved away from Immortal Land. There were many islands and islets around Immortal Island. Although they were just rocky islands, they also had abundant earth and heaven energy. Dracula flew to a remote islet. After he landed, he arranged his thoughts and talked to Shi Yan as soon as he arrived. I'm sure you've seen similar marks on the servants of Hui and Devour. For example, Hui's soul slaves have a dark green snake mark and Devour's subordinates have a dark vortex one. It's true, Shi Yan nodded. The members of the Devouring clan like Edgar and Lebit don't have the same mark. Do you know why? Why? Edgar and Lebit were created by Devour's blood, body, and soul. Devour considers them his children. Of course, he won't imprint the soul slave mark on them. That mark is an enslaving mark. Once they get it, they have to become a servant that can never escape their life as a slave. Dracula took a deep breath, his face stern. Also, the soul mark is very cruel. It has the same aura as the master. When the master dies, the soul slaves will be affected. Their souls will perish instantly. Devour considers Edgar, Lebit, and the Devouring clan's warriors as his children, not the slaves. Thus, they don't have a soul mark. He was the most ancient precursor. He was the high-intelligent creature born after the absolute beginning era. He knew how fierce and cruel those strong absolute beginning creatures were. The soul mark was something that only the absolute beginning creatures could create. Once the warriors were imprinted, their souls and lives were confined. They had to be someone's slaves for the rest of their lives. This mark was a cage that could bind the warriors until they died. Listening to Dracula, Shi Yan was chilled. He understood why Dracula wanted to keep this conversation from Xian He, Ming Hao, and Frederick. If Xian He, Ming Hao, and the others knew that they had an enslaving mark, how would they feel? My mark has existed from the moment I got the inheritance. Shi Yan stroked his forehead, which was smooth without any mark. The mark existing in his soul didn't appear on his skin like Xian He. Only when he sent his energy to the others did it emerge vaguely. If it's so serious, am I someone's soul slave? Shi Yan changed his face, his eyes shooting sharp light. This mark comes from Bloodthirsty. He wasn't an absolute beginning creature. How could he get it? As the mark still exists, is it true that he's still alive? A series of doubt popped up in his head. He stroked the blood vein ring and searched through its memories. Swallowing Pu Tai's soul altar, he got all the memories of the ring's spirit. At this moment, he was carefully searching. However, he found nothing related to the mark in Pu Tai's memories. He didn't find anything related. It made him more worried. He knew that it wasn't good. Dracula looked at him, his eyes deep. After a while, he stressed each word. That blood mark should be the last wisp of Bloodthirsty. Shi Yan felt something explode in his head. Bloodthirsty's remaining soul. The great devil king of desolate territory, the one that had silenced Devour, hasn't died yet. Was he that bold? Before this conversation, I've asked Xian He and Ming how about Bloodthirsty's features. He was created by Desolate from the essence of the 4 great creatures. However, Devour had affected him and given him the devouring power Upanishad with the 8 evil power Upanishads. Bloodthirsty was actually part of an absolute beginning creature. It's not wrong to say that he was an absolute beginning creature. He got the power from Desolate's body, so he knew the secret technique of the soul mark. It's not hard to explain. Dracula's voice was serious, his face solemn. With the magical features of the soul mark, if it's an evil mark, when Bloodthirsty dies, Xian He, Frederick, and the ones with the marks will perish instantly altogether. Xian, he is still alive. Thus, there are two ways to explain this. That soul mark might not be an evil one. He died, but his soul slaves are still alive. If it is an evil one, then he hasn't died yet. A wisp of his soul remains in this world. The mark in your host's soul should be where his last wisp of soul is sheltered. Pausing for a while, Dracula hissed, "If it's true, then one day he can wake up and use that mark to replace you, using your blood, flesh, and soul altar to revive himself." It was like a thunderclap booming in Shurian's brain. His face became dark and sinister. Dracula turned to him. He didn't say more. If Shurian was resolute enough, he would know what to do next. Thus, he just watched him in silence. Shurian emitted a gloomy and cold aura like ice. After less than 10 minutes, he smiled. "No matter what, I have to thank you. Regardless of which it is, I will do it now. I will cut it off." Dracula gave him a nod. "Then I can ease my mind." He didn't linger and turned into a gloomy light, leaving the place. After he had disappeared, Shurian kept silent for a long time. All of a sudden, he dug into the ground of the island. When his body disappeared, layers of dark clouds churned. Lightning flashed inside the dark clouds as they created a barrier that could prevent all kind of soul consciousness sensing activities. Even the warriors at Hero and Montesi's level couldn't intrude this place, because this was Grace mainland. The continent belonged to Shurian. Inside the islet, the rigid rock and soul separated naturally as if a god had just created a plain stone room there. This stone room was closed so that wind or light couldn't visit here. Shurian stayed inside the room and began to observe his soul altar. He gathered his soul consciousness and created rolling waves to tie his host soul down. The transparent host soul hovering above the incipient extent had a small blood mark on its forehead where there were many wiggling soul lines like tiny snakes. Swallow. The black hole emerged and turned into a black vortex that shrank and then entered the host soul through the forehead. The black whirlpool faced the mark in case something happened that Shurian couldn't handle. Bands of starlight came with death, darkness, and many other power Upanishads to set up the barriers inside the black hole. After everything was ready, Shurian turned into a jet of light that shot through the mark. It was the first time he had come to the blood mark in his soul. Red clouds that looked like they were made of blood gathered. As Shurian's soul consciousness got in there, he suddenly felt irritated as if he couldn't control his heart. He wanted to sink into the desire to slaughter. It was the effect of the blood cloud sea. His soul consciousness floated above the sea of clouds. He observed to sense if there was an aura here. He wanted to solve the problem that had troubled him for years. All of a sudden, the sea of clouds began to spin. Clear images emerged, and Shurian could see a man who was pretty tall and sturdy with overbearing makings. He had long, fire-red hair that outlined his red, sun-like eyes. He was slaughtering many warriors. Shurian could feel his invincible, overlord-like aura through the images. A vibe was sent to his soul consciousness. Shurian was touched. It was like a giant demogorgon in the ancient time that faced the sky and roared. The giant demogorgon wanted to kill all the creatures and even tear the images that Shurian was watching to jump into this world. It was a soul vibe that he couldn't describe. Every image he was watching described the giant demogorgon that conquered earth and heaven and subjected the other creatures to him. Slowly, the images shrank and created a clear roll of pictures. In that roll of picture, the hunky, blood-red figure was fighting against a massive octopus-like creature. The entire sky darkened and collapsed because of their fight. Stars around them exploded continuously. Shurian understood it clearly. It was the battle between Devour and Bloodthirsty. The picture made him boil with enthusiasm as if he had witnessed how bold and peerless Bloodthirsty was with his own eyes. This last picture was the memories that Bloodthirsty had carved deep in his soul. It didn't include the battle between him and the God Lord or the God Lord controlling many experts to fight him. It proved that Bloodthirsty didn't consider God Lord Brian his equal match. In his memories, the battle with Devour was the peak of his life. It was the memory that never faded from his mind. As the images disappeared, the magical blood cloud thinned as the mark in Shurian's soul started to dissolve. A vague, ancient, deep voice arose in his head. My heir, finally you came here. It means that you're just a step away from the Territory Ancestor Realm. This is the last mark I left in this world. It will vanish at this moment, and I will be buried altogether. My life, the one that was just shown to you, will be the guidance for you to continue thriving. To you I have only one request. Swallow and refine Desolate and Devour. My existence and my entire life is just a sacrifice to compete against them. You are my heir and the one I lay my hope in, Deanna. Please help me obliterate them. Chapter 1506, Drifting Far Away. Chapter 1506, Drifting Far Away. _ Immortal Island. Xian, he, Frederick, and Ming Hao were in 3 different places and telling their warriors about the current situation. When Grace Mainland entered the foreign territory, they arranged their warriors to cultivate better. Those warriors cultivated death, corpse chi, and soul control power Upanishads. When they were in desolate territory, they had scattered and worked for Xian, he, and the other 2, discreetly. They were the reserve force. Some incident happened quietly. While talking to his warriors, Xian, he found that their blood marks were slowly fading as if someone was erasing them. It was so strange. Then, Xian, he noticed that his warriors were watching him with frightened eyes. He took out a mirror to check his own face. The blood mark on his glabella was slowly disappearing magically. Xian, he was frightened. He didn't know what was happening. He ditched his warriors and went to find Frederick and Ming Hao to see if they knew the situation. The same thing happened to the warriors of the Bloodthirsty Force. The blood mark on their foreheads vanished. As Xian, he was shocked. Ming Hao and Frederick felt the same. Yang Tian Emperor, Blood Devil, Fei Lan, and the others were panic-stricken. It was the fear of the unknown. Shadows moved fast and gathered on Immortal Island. Those people belonged to the Bloodthirsty Force. Regardless of where they received their inheritance, they had the same blood mark. At this moment, all of their marks were disappearing. What happened? Blood Devil, Yang Tian Emperor, Fei Lan Leona, and Ka Tua Sa Xian, he and Ming Hao arrive. As they saw the others without the blood mark, they got more frightened. What's happened? Why are our marks all disappearing? Gosh, is it going to be something terrifying? Screamed Ka Tua. On a cliff not far from them, Dracula was watching Xian, his group. Seeing their marks gone, he was also skeptical. He turned to see the islet where Yen was hiding. It had been half a month. What happened to him? Dracula pondered, his face getting serious. He was afraid that something unexpected had happened to Yen. When the Bloodthirsty Force's warriors were the most restless and insecure, Yen appeared out of thin air magically in between them. Everybody immediately gathered around him and hurried to ask him the reason. Do you feel comfortable or not? Yen smiled. When Xian He, Ming Hao, and Frederick heard that, they were bewildered. When their marks vanished, they were filled with fear, so they hadn't had time to check the other details in their bodies. As Yen reminded them, they got a hold of themselves and checked their bodies with shocked faces. All of them looked at ease and comfortable as the shackles in their souls were unchained. Many of them felt free, and they even felt that the air they were breathing in was more fresh and cool than usual. Some with stagnant realms for years felt like they were about to soar up into the sky. They were so thrilled as they gazed at Yen with questioning looks. They needed a quick explanation. Bloodthirsty had used a secret technique to create that mark. It's similar to the enslaving mark that Hui and Devour implanted on their slaves. However, your marks didn't bind your souls. It didn't kill you when he died. Compared to Hui and Devour, Bloodthirsty was more humane. Looking at them, Shiryen said continuously, that mark had some magical functions. He could know your location and condition through the mark. He could even know your thoughts. It was an invisible cage that bound all of you. Everybody wore dark faces. However, it won't continue. When the mark vanished, you've become free. Shiryen smiled. After his last wisp of soul vanished, all the marks were gone. Later on, you can't depend on the energy I gave you anymore. Anyway, without that tie, your sky will be wider. It's like you got good and bad news at the same time. Freedom is more important than accumulating energy. Xian, he expressed his attitude first. Our lives are more important than anything. Frederick nodded. Did his soul try to possess your body? Asked Ming Hao quietly. Sure. Yin kept silent for a while and then said, No, his last words were to ask me to kill Devour and Desolate. His existence and his tragic life was a sacrifice to compete against Desolate and Devour. He understood that even if he got my body, due to the limits in his soul, he wouldn't be able to defeat Desolate and Devour. Thus he gave it up. He had to sacrifice himself to lie his hopes on me. He hoped that I could fulfill his wish, the life goal that he hadn't achieved yet, destroying Desolate and Devour. Listening to him, Xian He, Frederick, and Ming Hao were down, sighing and sobbing. They were upset because Bloodthirsty was utterly gone. The overlord who had swaggered proudly in desolate territory for 10,000 years had given up his last chance to revive and set his hopes on Shiryen. He asked Shiryen to fulfill his wish. From now on, your souls aren't bound to anything. You can pursue a more profound realm. Of course, you need to accumulate energy. It will take more time to break through, said Shiryen. Xian He and the others nodded, indicating that they understood as they smiled. It seemed like they had already accepted this. Time flew like a running, unceasing river. Grace mainland headed to the territory entrance inside the chaotic space basin. The warriors were accommodated in different islands. They cultivated and lived well. During this time, Shiryen didn't cultivate. He left the endless sea to visit quiet cloud land, divine great land, dark magnetic noxious mist, and the coastal area at the end of the sea. He met so many people. He met Mu Yu Dai in quiet cloudland. Fortunately, Mu Yu Dai had recovered her graceful appearance. She had broken through the realm that restricted her longevity. However, it had been so many years. Even though Mu Yu Dai had advanced her realm, the gap between them was like the sky and the earth. He was just an old friend who came and visited her, nothing more. On divine great land, he came to Ice Emperor City to meet the 4 mature women, including Bing Qing Tong, Han Shui, Xuan Yuzhu, and Ling Danqing. The 4 women stayed and cultivated in Ice Emperor City. Sometimes they smiled happily when they remembered him. He had stayed in Ice Emperor City for a short time before leaving the 4 women a course of bright memories that they would never forget. Then he left. He visited the 2 chiefs of the demon clan, Bao Ao and Jieji. They drank and discussed their understandings of power Upanishads. He had opened them the gateway to a new level. Inside the perpetual night forest, he met Fiery Dragon, Fierce Flame Gold Lion, and he had shown them the heavenly monster tribes' cultivating techniques, directing them to a brighter future. His figure had appeared in every corner of the continent. He had observed the trees, the tufts of grass, human beings, and so many creatures living on this continent. He studied and remembered them all. He walked across this world to think about the changes to his incipient extent in the future. He thought and reasoned the rules of nature and the marvels it could have after creatures were created there. He wanted to study the creature's situations and conditions to see how things changed in the real world. It was going to help him figure out the key points to ascend his incipient extent to a territory. Grace Mainland moved at a normal pace. He didn't try to urge his energy to accelerate and just calmly walked around the continent to observe more. It had been 10 years already. During the 10 years, he didn't cultivate his power Upanishads and just wandered around, drinking in the inns of the mortal people and enjoying the windy, misty weather deep inside the forest. Then one day, Hero and Montesi appeared in front of him. It was in a small country inside an ordinary inn. By a hustling and bustling square, flows of people walked around and their lively noises carried through the window of the tavern. Sure, Yen leaned against the window and drank. His drowsy eyes eyed the noisy street with people living their normal but happy lives. It wasn't lunchtime yet, so the tavern didn't have many customers. They were talking about their daily lives. The shopkeeper was flipping through his logbook. From time to time, he shot a checking look to the young man sitting by the window. It had been 3 months since that young man came to drink in his tavern daily. Every day he came and sat in the same spot. He would spend half a day in his shop. The young man looked like he was in his 20s, but he appeared as if he had experienced hundreds of lives in this world. His back looked archaic, and the shopkeeper couldn't explain why he had such a feeling when he saw him. Footsteps rattled on the staircase. An elegant young lady came with her maid. She was a tender girl, wearing a long, green dress, her body graceful. She chose a table behind the man to sit with her maid. Sometimes she shot the man her meaningful looks. The shopkeeper glanced at the young lady and sighed. He knew that this girl was the city master's daughter with a noble origin, and he also knew that she had a deep affection for the young man. That's why she came here every day to see him. However, she was shy, so she was waiting for him to make the first move. Unfortunately, the young man didn't talk to her. Every time, she went home with disappointment. However, she wasn't enraged because of that. The next day, she would show up with her maid and order the same food he had ordered. Many regular customers of the inn could see her feelings, but the man seemed so ignorant. He hadn't said even a word to her. Today was the same. The young man stood indifferently by the window, observing the bustling life down the street and saying nothing. The lady came with her maid and sat behind him, her bright eyes fixed on the side of his face. Looking at that lonely figure, she was so bitter that she couldn't talk. What has he experienced? The young girl mumbled inwardly. Recently, she had become emotional. The more she thought, the sourer she became. Gradually, she had tears in her eyes. Suddenly, 2 lights came. A little girl and a white skeleton appeared by the young man. The white skeleton spoke in a human language. Shiryen, we are almost at the territory entrance. Everybody is waiting for you. The young man that looked everlastingly cold smiled for the first time. As people were screaming in panic, he stood up. He finally turned around and looked at the young lady who had sat behind him for more than 1 month. I appreciate your affection towards me. Unfortunately, we don't share the same destiny. Here, this pellet is for you. If you have it, you can retain your youth forever. You will live for 500 years at least. Sigh. If our destinies cross again, we will meet. He sighed. Then, together with the skeleton and the little girl, they turned into 3 jets of light and tore the sky to leave. The little girls held the pellet whose fragrance had filled the entire street, looking at the 3 rainbows zooming far away in the sky. Her tears rolled, quietly, her face baffled. Chapter 1507. Anger against a common enemy. Chapter 1507. Anger against a common enemy. Underscore the other end of the chaotic space basin was a 5-colored light curtain that was like murmuring water that was slowly revealing. Shiryen, Montesi, and Hero gathered in the sky of Grace mainland and observed the light curtain and the changing space streamers. It was the territory entrance. Crossing the light curtain, they could enter a branch of the currents to the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation. Then they could get to the surface of the Sea of Annihilation. Hero and I talked. We chose the territory. It's called Cloud Mist. It's not as vast as desolate territory, and the earth and heaven energy aren't abundant either. However, it's a rare and precious territory of our Phantom Clan. It's suitable for warriors to stay and cultivate. Montesi's eyes smiled. Cloud Mist territory is close to the White Bone Clan's territories. We can visit each other more often. Hero and I can join hands to create a passage to bring this continent to Cloud Mist territory instantly from here. However, we need some time. We asked you here to confirm. Hero looked at him, his eyes strange. After 10 years, your god power hasn't increased, but your aura is close to the territory ancestor realm. It seems that you have a special way to understand? Shi Yen was serene, his eyes peaceful. I got some harvest. What do you think? Montesi wanted a clear answer. Okay, releasing his soul consciousness, Shi Yen sensed for a while. Then he nodded. Precursor Hero and Montesi, please stay and build the passage here. I'm going to the Sea of Annihilation for a while. He turned to Emperor Sea Shark and explained. Emperor Sea Shark wants to evacuate his fellows. I'm going with him. Emperor Sea Shark and Shenren were moved. They nodded and waited for Hero and Montesi's opinions. No problem. We need time to create the passage anyway. We'll wait for you, said Hero. Montesi nodded. I'm going with you, Meiji beamed. I'm familiar with the Sea of Annihilation. If something happens, I can help. I've collected information regarding the Sea of Annihilation's condition recently. I think I can help you well. What do you think? Shi Yen asked Emperor Sea Shark. I have to thank Madam Meiji a lot for that. Thank you, said Emperor Sea Shark with a stern face. Go. Shi Yen shot through the entrance territory and disappeared like a streak of a meteor. Emperor Sea Shark, Shenren, and Meiji followed him and disappeared into the territory entrance. Seabed, Sea of Annihilation. The seabed area seems smaller. It's strange. Something happened, Emperor Sea Shark moved around and knitted his brows. This sea area belongs to me. I know how big it is. But look at this, it's getting much smaller. That year, after Shi Yan's bloody battle on the seabed, the Sea of Annihilation seabed shrunk. Since Meiji had always paid attention to the Sea of Annihilation, she sent her warriors to measure the area carefully. She knew clearly the shock waves from the territory ancestors' battle had damaged the seabed seriously. Thus, the place changed. Meiji wore a violet dress. She was as beautiful as a bright flower. She was both charming and sexy. As soon as they left Grace mainland, she returned to her mature, enchanting appearance. She wasn't afraid of Emperor Sea Shark and Shenren as she pressed her voluptuous body against Shi Yan's. She couldn't relax when she was in front of the elders of her clan, like Montesi. But now, she could be herself and show her love. She pulled Shi Yan's arm, her cheek blushing. I heard that your subordinates haven't had easy lives. The members of the 5 clans often come to this seabed to trouble them. Since you guys are gone, many of your enemies have provoked your warriors. Emperor Sea Shark and Shenren's eyes darkened. They sighed. How could they not know that? Emperor Sea Shark wasn't a territory ancestor of the 5 clans. He didn't have a strong background. Once he offended someone, he had to endure it alone. Otherwise, he had to run and hide. As soon as he left, his fellows became targets. It wasn't strange that they had to live in trouble. I know they had to struggle a lot. Before Shenren and I left, I had asked them to give up the benefits and find remote areas to stay. Emperor Sea Shark lowered his voice. If not, Why do I have to bring them to the endless sea? After you reach second sky of territory ancestor realm, we won't be afraid of the 5 clans anymore. At that realm, even if they want to trouble us, they have to think about your wrath first, said Shinrian in a cold voice. Emperor Sea Shark beamed a forced smile. Reaching second sky of territory ancestor realm? It's easier said than done. I'm sure you can, sir. Shinrin had a strong belief. Mei Ji sneered and didn't say anything. However, from her attitude, they could see that she didn't really appreciate Emperor Sea Shark. To break through to the territory ancestor realm, it didn't require only a new understanding of the realm, but also enormous god power accumulation. It would take a lot of earth and heaven treasures. Since Meiji was a member of the Phantom Clan, Montesi had given her a lot of resources that the clan had treasured for years to help her reach the territory ancestor realm in a short time. However, Meiji understood clearly that she was at just first sky of territory ancestor realm. It would require an unimaginably enormous amount of energy and materials to reach the next realm. Also, even the Phantom Clan was one of the 7 great clans. It wasn't easy to continuously provide her with precious materials. Emperor Sea Shark cultivated alone. He didn't have a force to back him up. He didn't have a natural territory that provided him with pellets and abundant cultivating materials. It wasn't easy to break through to second sky of territory ancestor realm. It was also the reason why his peers like Farrell or Ricardo had to follow the 5 clans to seek support, no matter how arrogant they were. Illicitly, Farrell and Ricardo knew that they couldn't enter second sky of territory ancestor realm with their own foundation. Only the big forces like the 7 clans could have enough power and wealth with dozens of territories supporting them by providing them with rolling and unceasing required cultivating materials. Emperor Sea Shark. Meiji pondered for a while and then smiled. She suggested seriously, have you ever thought about joining a clan like the Whitebone Clan or our Phantom Clan? If you join our Phantom Clan, we can provide you with our resources. It will be good for your breakthrough. Farrell and Ricardo do the same. You can do that too. At least when you join the Whitebone Clan or the Phantom Clan, the other 5 clans won't dare to touch you. Shinrin lowered his head when he heard it from Meiji and said nothing. Emperor Sea Shark didn't change his visage. Keeping silent for a while, he said indifferently, if I wanted that, I would have joined one of the 7 clans a long time ago. But I'd rather break through, slowly, than lose my freedom. I'm really sorry. I appreciate your goodwill, but I don't want to work for you guys. Meiji looked regretful. She just sighed deeply, but she didn't talk him into this. As Emperor Sea Shark made his decision, the Whitebone Clan and the Phantom Clan wouldn't help him resist the other 5 clans. When the 5 clans attacked him, they wouldn't offer help proactively. As Emperor Sea Shark wasn't a member of their clan, it was like they were nosing into someone else's business. It went against common interests and rules. Because of this topic, they had become relatively silent. They didn't try to talk furthermore. Emperor Sea Shark guided Shiryen and Meiji to move around the seabed. They had met a lot of warriors taking adventures. Shiryen and Emperor Sea Shark had proactively avoided them to prevent encountering unexpected troubles. Anyway, Shiryen and Emperor Sea Shark were the 5 clans' targets, especially Shiryen. At this moment, he was the nail in their eyes. Everybody dreamed of taking his power Upanishad, symbol tower. Once his whereabouts were disclosed, the experts of the 5 clans had to surround him like flies. After a short time, the 4 of them had entered an area filled with jagged rocks. Emperor Sea Shark's face darkened. His eyes flared with cold light as they raked through the rocky area. Shiryen looked at him and sighed. Restrain your grief. Boom! 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 Jagged rocks exploded and revealed a red area. Dead bodies of the Sea Clan warriors appeared from the cracks of the rocks. A massive rock carried around 10 bodies, but the bodies were dismembered. It wasn't hard to imagine what kind of torments they had to endure before their death. They were killed because the murderers wanted to squeeze out Emperor Sea Shark's whereabouts from them. Emperor Sea Shark and Shunrin shivered, their eyes burning with flames of rage. The thick, murderous aura from them made Yen frown. He worried that Emperor Sea Shark and Shunrin couldn't hold it and would burst out to find the enemies. It's just one of our bases. Let's move and check another one. Emperor Sea Shark bit his lip. Blood trickled from his mouth. He let out a low roar like a dying beast. The massive rocks and the dismembered bodies turned into jets of light that came to his territory. He took Shunren, Yen, and Meiji and moved away. They had come to 3 different bases and found the same situation. His fellows were massacred. They were chilled when they saw the butchered bodies. No one was alive. Yen looked at Emperor Sea Shark and Shunren. He knew that they were about to explode. He knew that 2 of them were trying hard to press down their wrath. He was touched as he understood their grief and resentment. They could see the marks of torments on the dismembered bodies. As he saw the chopped bodies, he blamed himself. He was responsible for their deaths. He couldn't deny it. If Emperor Sea Shark hadn't stood against Feral, Neptune, and Ricardo to help him, the 5 clans wouldn't have attacked the Sea Clan warriors. Emperor Sea Shark wouldn't have had to escape. If Emperor Sea Shark hadn't come to desolate territory, those people wouldn't have been killed so tragically. I don't care whoever did this. I promise you that I will join hands with you to kill the murderers, Yen said solemnly. Chapter 1508, The Light in the Desperate Straits. Chapter 1508, The Light in the Desperate Straits. Countless tufts of algae grew, like clusters of thick clouds that eyes couldn't see through. It was troublesome for the soul consciousness to extend through these clusters. This was the last base that Emperor Sea Shark and Shunrin had established. It was also the most mysterious shelter by the edge of the Sea of Annihilation. With terrifying dangers nearby, not many people dared to visit this death trap. Thus, Emperor Sea Shark and Shunrin thought that it would be the safest shelter. The closer they got, the more restless and worried Emperor Sea Shark and Shunrin became. They had checked around 10 shelters and sent their fellows there to avoid the slaughter. However, they found no alive members. The tragic scenes hammered their hearts and made them bleed in agony. They had hoped for this last base. If this place was also raided, they would be attacked so badly that they could even collapse directly. While slowly advancing in the field of algae, Yen also became tense. He released his soul consciousness to sense. There's life energy. His eyes brightened. Yen became sober and hissed. Many people are gathering. As he cultivated life power Upanishad, his sensing ability was more accurate than Emperor Sea Shark. Hearing him, the gloomy gleam in Emperor Sea Shark and Shunren's eyes subsided. They cheered up. Go! Emperor Sea Shark let out a low shout and moved like a sharp sword thrusting into the area of thick algae in the center. Shortly after, a strange area came to their views. It was the center of the algae field where there were so many fungal plants. They were illuminating radiantly like lights. And the space above their heads still had a lot of algae, leaves like thick clouds that could hinder the eyes and the soul consciousness. This area had many lamp-like fungal growths and vivid red coral with pieces of glass scattered, sparkling beautifully. Many fellows of the Sea Clan were packed in this area. They all looked sorrowful. Many of them had cut limbs, and most of them looked desperate, their eyes blank while facing the sky. The dispirited, heavy air filled the entire place and made people shiver. The Sea Clan warriors were all in low spirits. They didn't cultivate and just sat idly waiting for death. Dadak and Hujiao, who used to fight Yen, were in this group. The warriors with strong competencies gathered by them. With a solemn face, they were discussing something. They looked like they were about to risk their lives. Yen, Emperor Sea Shark, Shenrin, and Meiji moved through the algae leaves and quietly entered the area. Looking at his low-spirited fellows, Emperor Sea Shark looked gloomy. He knew how harsh and terrible it was for his people to endure the torment. Shenrin sighed inwardly. His sigh was like a thunderclap in this area that woke some warriors nearby. They jolted up as if they were encountering enemies and screamed, "They're here!" It was their instinct. That's what it had to be. They thought that the chasers had finally here, so they screamed when they heard a strange commotion. Then they turned around. With the sharp weapons in their hands, they were ready to have a deadly battle. All the members of the Sea clan in this area, whether they were the elderly or kids, wore resentful faces and clutched their weapons, showing a murderous aura. Sir Shenrin, Sir Shenren, Tribal Oldie. Tribal Oldie is back. It's the Tribal Oldie. All of a sudden, the entire area was boiling. The members of the Sea clan had tears in their eyes. They finally saw hope in desperate straits. They cried while the women sobbed and whined. The cries created a chain reaction and expanded to all the members. Whether they were the children, the elderly, or the bravest warriors, they were all weak like helpless kids who finally found adults that could help them out. They cried to vent their indignation. Seeing the members of the Sea clan crying, Shiryen and Meiji also wore gloomy faces. They understood clearly that if Emperor Sea Shark hadn't helped them at that time, they would have endured Farrell's sinister deeds. Also, because Emperor Sea Shark had helped them, he had brought his members a genocide. Hu Jiao and the Blood Iron warriors of the Sea clan came and kneeled in front of Emperor Sea Shark. Hu Jiao said, "We didn't fail you. We have protected the Crystal Palace. However, it's very dangerous around. We have to keep it in another area. Tribal Oldie, please take revenge for us." Daddock's eyes were bloodshot. He gritted his teeth until blood trickled down the corners of his mouth. He grunted with deep resentment. Farrell and the Soul Clan had destroyed our shelters. Half of our population was killed. Please seek justice for us. Please take revenge for us. All the members of the Sea Clan cried in agony as if they wanted to cry their hearts out of grief. "I got it. I know it. I will. I definitely will." Emperor Sea Shark had tears lingering in his eyes. He screamed his most solid promise that was imprinted in his soul and would never fade. "Daddock, what happened?" Sure, Yen walked to him and asked in a soft voice. Daddock looked at him, his face so cold, but he said nothing. He knew that everything that happened was related to Shiryen. Without Shiryen, the Sea clan wouldn't have had to endure such catastrophes. Seeing Daddock with discreet resentment, Shiryen rubbed his nose and sighed. He didn't ask further, as he understood the hatred the Sea clan had for him. "Daddock, don't be impudent. It's our choice. We owed him. We must pay back." "It's not directly because of Shiryen," shouted Shinrin. He pulled himself together and then asked, "What happened after all?" Daddock pondered for a while and then told them what had happened. At first, due to Montese's slaughter, Farrell, Ricardo, and Neptune had escaped the Sea of Annihilation. Although they had been aimed at the whole time, they still survived. They just needed to give up some benefits. After Montese had left the Sea of Annihilation, Farrell and Ricardo didn't return. However, because they had joined the 5 clans, their subordinates had swaggered around and forced Daddock and Hu Jiao. They had to restrain themselves a lot, and their territory was reduced. During that time, they hadn't encountered any catastrophe. This was until Shiryen invited Montese, Hero, and Emperor Sea Shark to Desolate Territory. To find the entrance to Desolate Territory, the 5 clans had sent their troops to the Sea of Annihilation. Farrell, Ricardo, and Neptune had also returned since the forces they had gathered were strong enough to not worry about Montese's power. They weren't afraid of Montese, so they began to find Emperor Sea Shark to take revenge. Neptune and Farrell had launched their operation. They sent troops of the Soul Clan and Ancient Monster Clan to the seabed to hunt Dadak and Hu Jiao. They did that to force Emperor Sea Shark to show himself. They even wanted to kill Emperor Sea Shark altogether. Dadak and Hu Jiao knew that Emperor Sea Shark had gone to desolate territory. They couldn't contact him, so they had to avoid the danger. Thus, they had to run away the entire time. The Sea Clan's shelters were raided until they retreated to this last resort. They finally got some time to rest. However, they were still edgy as they were afraid that Neptune and Pharaoh's warriors would come to hunt them down to the last member at any minute. It was also the reason why they screamed in panic when they felt someone coming. They thought that their enemies had finally come to take their lives. Neptune, Emperor Sea Shark, gritted his teeth. Pharaoh. Meiji also sneered. I have to find him too. He killed a lot of my subordinates. He killed Yu Lian. Does he think he can resist our wrath if he comes to the Ancient Monster Clan? Harumph. Neptune and Pharaoh came to the Sea of Annihilation, personally, because of the territory entrance. It seems like they got some harvest. Shi Yin contemplated, his eyes flaring with light. He knew something. What do you mean? Meiji reacted fast. Except for the warriors from desolate territory, only the Devouring Clan knows the territory entrance. As the Devouring Clan failed in desolate territory and I got the Power Upanishad symbol tower, the Devouring Clan wouldn't let it slip away easily. I think the Devouring Clan will disclose the precise location of the territory entrance, assumed Shi Yin. It's true. Otherwise, the hotshots from the 5 clans wouldn't gather in the Sea of Annihilation altogether. Meiji nodded. Shi Yin pondered for a while, his eyes raking through Dadak, Hu Jiao, and the others. After a long moment, he said, Precursor Emperor Sea Shark, the urgent matter to do now is to take them to the Endless Sea first. We have to ensure their safety first. About taking revenge, I can commit that I won't just stand and stare. You! Dadak snorted. You're at the immortal realm. How can you manage that? Can you? Shut up. Shanrin shouted, and then talk to Emperor Sea Shark. Tribal oldie, deliver the kids to the safe place first. We will take revenge later. What do you think? Emperor Sea Shark wasn't foolish. He knew what was wise to do. He nodded and then said, Do as Shi Yin said. We will take our fellows to the safe area first. The Sea of Annihilation will become chaotic soon. The Great War will happen at any minute. Then, Emperor Sea Shark, Shi Yin, and Meiji escorted the Sea Clan's remaining members. Emperor Sea Shark used his territory ancestor realm power to transport them to the territory entrance to desolate territory. So many black brocade flags with drawings of brutal souls and evil ghosts flew to the front of the algae area. Hu Jiao observed for a while, and his face turned icy as he grunted. It's them. It's the Soul Clan and the Ancient Monster Clan's troops that had surrounded and destroyed our fellows. Dadak gritted his teeth like a wounded wild beast, his face resentful. Kill them all, hissed Shi Yin. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.